I was reborn back to the day when my model student childhood sweetheart, Julian, skipped class for the school bell and missed his grandfather's final moments. In my previous life, I'd covered for him out of kindness, only for him to vent all his grief and hatred on me after his grandfather's death. Later, in the name of avenging his deceased first love, he personally pushed me off a cliff. "Chloe," he had hissed, his fingers clamped around my throat, eyes burning with venom. "If it weren't for you, Bella wouldn't have died. A vicious woman like you deserves to join her in the grave." This time, when I saw him appear at the hospital door late, as always, and demand why I hadn't called him, I smiled. In front of everyone, I looked him in the eye and said, word by word, "Call you? So your dead first love could send you a thank you from the afterlife? Julian? He's just a boring nerd. Sure. His face is decent. But that's about it. So dull it's painful. If it weren't for the novelty of it getting a taste of the goody-two-shoes type, I wouldn't even bother. Even if you paid me." The voice came from the next stall, deliberately hushed yet dripping with smugness, followed by the sharp click of a lighter. Crouched on the cold toilet seat, I felt my blood freeze into shards of ice, then boil and surge through my veins the next second. I wasn't dead. I had actually come back. My limbs felt drained of strength. I clutched the partition to steady myself. In front of me wasn't the blur of gray sky I'd seen as I plunged off the cliff, but a grimy bathroom door smeared with graffiti. In my past life, this was where I'd overheard Bella, the school belle Julian was obsessively chasing, and her friend having this exact conversation. I, Chloe, had lived like a fool all my life. I believed Julian and I, having grown up together, shared a bond deeper than family. His family was poor, so my parents helped them out. When his grandfather fell ill, we paid the bills. When he got bullied, my brother fought for him. So when I heard Bella insult him, I'd stormed out impulsively and repeated every word to him, thinking I was defending him. How naive I was. He dragged me straight to confront Bella. She, of course, denied everything, swearing to heaven that if she'd ever uttered a word of it, she'd be hit by a car. In a cruel twist of fate, when she ran into the street to prove her innocence, a drunk truck driver turned the corner. Red and white splattered everywhere. Julian went mad on the spot. His unattainable goddess, his newly confessed love, became a bloodstain on his heart, an eternal, untouchable scar. And I, Chloe, having fulfilled my sigh, became the culprit in his eyes. For the next 5 years, he was the perfect friend, gentle, caring, protective. My parents said Julian was a good boy who knew how to repay kindness, until the day he was recognized by his birth family, a powerful dynasty in the capital, and transformed overnight into a true aristocrat. He invited me to the mountaintop to thank me for all my years of companionship. I will never forget the look in his eyes as he tore off his mask. The light in them had died, leaving only black, bottomless hatred. "Chloe, cutting falseld lied Sashern." His voice dripped poison. "If it weren't for that filthy mouth of yours, Bella would still be alive. I've tolerated you for 5 years for this day. You're so vicious. You should go down and keep her company." So it turned out all his tenderness had been an act. All his care, a patient trap. As I fell, limp as a rag doll, I thought not of my death, but of my parents still in the dark, still believing in the boy they'd treated like a son. My fists clenched until my knuckles turned white. My heart didn't beat, it rammed against my ribs, one blow after another, as if trying to shatter them. And yet, I laughed low, quiet, trembling. How wonderful. To live again, how wonderful. This time, I wouldn't be the foolish datolate. I wiped away the tears at the corners of my eyes, calmly straight and my uniform, flushed the toilet, and stepped out. Bella and her friend were leaning against the sink, touching up their makeup. Bella glanced at me through her thick eyeliner, disdain dripping from her gaze, utter contempt for the good girl she thought I was. I didn't look at her. I turned on the faucet and washed my hands slowly, deliberately. The sound of running water masked the cold curl of my lips. "Julian, Bella. This time, I'll be the one setting the rules of the game." Instead of returning to class, I walked straight to the homeroom teacher's office. Clutching my stomach, my face pale and slick with cold sweat, I said weakly. Teacher. My stomach hurts badly. It's probably my period. Could I go home and rest? Seeing me look so fragile, like a porcelain and all about to break, she immediately wrote me a leave slip. The sunlight outside the school gate was blinding. I turned back to glance at the classroom building. In my past life, at this hour, I had been comforting Julian, who was sulking over my betrayal. In this life, he was probably being charmed out of his mind by Bella. Perfect. I took out my phone and called my mother. Mom, I'm not feeling well, so I took leave. I'm heading home now. Yeah. It's nothing serious. Just a little dizzy. Hearing her anxious voice, my eyes stung. Tears nearly spilled. Dad, Mom. This time, I'll protect you both. When I reached the front door, a wave of dizziness crashed over me. My vision went black, and I collapsed. It was the side effect of rebirth, but also the first step of my plan. When I opened my eyes again, the sharp scent of disinfectant filled my nose. My parents' worried faces hovered above me. Chloe. You're awake. How do you feel? My mother clutched my hand. Her eyes red. The doctor said it's just low blood sugar and heat exhaustion. You scared us to death. My father fussed beside her, peeling an apple like I was some fragile empress. Their genuine concern broke something inside me. Tears streamed down my face in heavy sobs. In my previous life, after my death, my parents had spent everything searching for me. When they learned I'd been pushed off a cliff by Julian, they confronted him only to be beaten and thrown out by his family's guards. Get lost. Beggars. Our Julian doesn't associate with trash like you. My parents' hair turned white overnight. They both died soon after broken. Despairing. They were only in their 40s. Yet they looked like they were 80. And Julian, the ungrateful wolf our family had raised, stood on our graves and lived his grand life as the rich heir. My heart clenched so hard it hurt to breathe. Dad. Mom. I sobbed, gripping their hands tightly. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. They thought I was just being emotional from exhaustion and hurried to comfort me. Silly girl. What nonsense are you saying? I buried my face in my mother's embrace, hiding all my grief and hatred, leaving only endless attachment. Once my emotions had calmed a little, I lifted my tear-swollen eyes and said with a seriousness I had never shown before. Dad. Mom. I don't want to play with Julian anymore. The room fell silent in an instant. My parents exchanged a glance. Then my mom smiled indulgently and pinched my nose. All right. Our Chloe's all grown up and won't play with him anymore. Did he make you angry again? When he comes, I'll help you scold him. I knew they thought it was just a child's petty tantrum. What they didn't know was that it wasn't just a sentence. It was a declaration. The first bell toll for Julian's hypocritical life. I pretended to be tired and asked them to go back and make me something to eat. Once they left, the room fell quiet. I lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. In my past life, Julian would have been in the classroom, lost in his thoughts. And I would have been racking my brain trying to figure out how to comfort him. What about this life? He was probably in some corner with Bella, kissing and whispering sweet things. As I thought about it, I heard hurried footsteps and muffled cries from outside the room. My heart skipped a beat. And I sat up. Not long after, my parents walked in, their faces filled with mixed emotions. Chloe. Something happened. My mom's voice trembled. Upstairs. Julian's grandfather. He's gone. I muttered an "oh," without much expression on my face. What was meant to happen would happen. In my previous life, it was also today that Julian's grandfather passed away. I didn't hear the news until I got home that night. Julian cried in my arms, saying he was glad I was there to keep him company. Looking back now, it's truly ironic. I just called your head teacher, hoping Julian would come back quickly. My mom paused, her tone growing strange. But your head teacher said, he skipped class. He hasn't been at school since noon, and no one can get in touch with him. My dad frowned. This kid is usually the most well-behaved. How could he skip class? Did something happen? Yeah. Other people's children, exemplary. diligent, and sensible. How could they skip class? I scoffed inwardly. But on the outside, I wore an appropriately confused and innocent expression. Skip class? I blinked, speaking softly. He's been in a relationship recently. I heard with Bella, our school's top beauty. Maybe he's out on a date with her? Dating? My parents were both equally shocked. I knew that this news was like a small earthquake to them. The combination of a good student and a troublemaking girl was just too much of a shock. At that moment, my mom's phone rang again. It was the head teacher calling, saying that the entire class had been looking for Julian, but no one could find him. Since I was closest to him, they asked if I had any clues. My mom handed me the phone. I took it and answered in the calmest tone, saying to the teacher, "Teacher, you might want to check the night sky internet CAF near the school. Bella likes to go there. Julian. He should be with her." I spoke with absolute certainty. Because in my previous life, after Bella was hit by a car, a devastated Julian cried to me, saying that he had planned to take her to her favorite internet CAF that day to surprise her. Sadly, that surprise had now turned into shock. After hanging up the phone, I watched my parents' faces filled with a mix of shock, disappointment, and disbelief. It felt good. Julian, your perfect persona, built over more than a decade, begins to collapse today. Julian never got to see his grandfather one last time. When he was finally dragged out of the internet CAF by the teacher and rushed to the hospital, Julian's grandfather had already passed away. I saw him kneel by the bed with a loud cud, crying like a 3-year-old. His face covered in tears and snot, repeatedly muttering, "Sorry. I'm late." To be honest, looking at Julian's grandfather's peaceful yet regretful face, I felt a tightness in my chest. The old man had led a tough life, and the proudest thing for him was this grandson. He had been waiting for him to return, his eyes fixed on the door. But in the end, the sorrow in my heart was for Julian's grandfather. It had nothing to do with Julian. Lost in thought, a shadow suddenly loomed over me. I looked up to see Julian standing in front of me, his eyes bloodshot, like a wild animal ready to attack. "Chloe." He called my full name, his voice hoarse and filled with accusation. I looked at him without expression. "Why didn't you notify me right away?" he shouted, like a mad dog, saliva almost flying in my face. I was so enraged by his shamelessness that I stepped back and pretended to clean my ears. "Notify you? Julian, have you gone mad?" I tilted my head, giving him a look of utter confusion. "How was I supposed to notify you? Should I have sent a dream? Or used telepathy like in a drama?" He choked on his words, his face turning an ugly shade of purple. And then he shouted even louder, "Don't you have Bella's number? Why didn't you just call her?" The neighbors and my parents all turned to look at us, their eyes wide in shock. I smiled, smiling even more joyfully. Why would I keep the number of a woman who's always behind your back calling you a fool and a nerd? My voice wasn't loud, but it exploded like a bomb in the silent hallway. Julian's face turned completely white in an instant. Before he could react, I lazily delivered the final blow. "Besides, weren't you supposed to be out on a date with her? You two are inseparable. Why would I, an outsider, need to contact you? Julian, you chose a woman over your own grandfather's life. And now you blame me? You're talking nonsense." He screeched like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "You're just jealous. Jealous that I'm with Bella." Enough. A word cut through the air. And it was my dad. He stormed over, grabbed me and pulled me behind him, glaring at Julian. "Julian, how are you talking to Chloe? Your grandfather just passed. And instead of reflecting on your actions, you're here yelling at your sister. Is this how we raised you?" My dad was a retired soldier, with a commanding presence that exuded authority even without raising his voice. Julian instantly shriveled up, looking at my dad with teary eyes, his voice full of grievance. "Uncle, huff, I didn't mean it. I'm just so sad." He was still acting, still playing the innocent, obedient child. At that moment, the television at the end of the hospital corridor blared with the local midday news. The female anchor's voice was crisp and clear. At around 12 p.m. today, a serious traffic accident occurred at the intersection of Highway Road and Jifeng Road in our city. A speeding car collided with an electric bike, resulting in the immediate death of the bike's rider. It has been reported that the deceased was Bella, a senior at City High School, only 18 years old. On the news, a stretcher covered with a white sheet flashed across the screen. Beside it lay a single blood-soaked sneaker. The same limited edition pair I'd seen on Bella's feet that very morning. The hallway fell into a deathly silence. All eyes turned toward Julian. I watched his body start to tremble violently. His pupils dilated. His lips quivered. But not a single sound came out. I gently pulled my hand free from my father's grasp and walked up to him. Leaning close to his ear, I smiled a quiet, merciless smile and whispered so only the two of us could hear. Julian, Nibai, did you hear that? Your first love is dead. She left right after your grandfather. On the road to the underworld. They can keep each other company. I watched the light in his eyes shatter bit by bit, until nothing remained but an empty, lifeless void. Then I smiled, satisfied. Two birds with one stone. And this was only the beginning. Julian's grandfather's funeral was simple and desolate. Julian himself was like a soulless corpse, kneeling before the altar, staring blankly at the two portraits in front of him, one of his grandfather, the other a blood-stained sticker photo he had taken from Bella's wallet. The absurdity of the scene made the visiting neighbors whisper among themselves, their gazes filled with pity and disdain. Naturally, all the funeral expenses were covered by my parents. Seeing Julian so pitiful, their hearts melted. They didn't press him for repayment, instead taking turns cooking for him and urging him to take care of himself. I watched coldly from the side, saying nothing. All I did was take a small notebook and carefully record every expense: floral wreaths, the Taoist priest, the banquet down to the last cent. On the day of the funeral, Bella's parents arrived. They came to make a scene. The couple, decked out in gold and diamonds, pointed at Julian's face and cursed him furiously, calling him the jinx who had killed their daughter and demanding his life in return. Julian knelt on the ground in silence, letting them shove and slap him without resistance. It was my father who finally stepped in to stop the chaos and send the hysterical couple away. The entire funeral turned into a farce. When everyone had left, I walked up to Julian, who was still kneeling there. He lifted his hollow eyes to me. I ignored the sorrow in them and handed him the notebook and a pen. Julian, my condolences, I said calmly, as if discussing the weather. These are all the expenses from your grandfather's funeral: 23,764 yuan and 50 cents. My parents fronted the money. Sign here, make an IOU, and pay it back when you can. The air froze. Julian stared at me in disbelief, his lips trembling. Chloe, you. Behind me. My parents were frantic. My mother snatched the notebook away. Chloe, what are you doing? Can't you see how much he's hurting? How can you bring up money right now? I ignored her and kept my gaze on Julian, my voice steady and clear. Even brothers should keep their accounts straight. Besides, we're not siblings. Our families helped you for years. But that doesn't make it our duty. We did it for your grandfather's sake. Now that he's gone, you're an adult. It's time you start taking responsibility for yourself. Or were you planning to live off us forever? My words were blade sharp, cold, and merciless, cutting straight into his already shattered heart. He glared at me, eyes filled not only with grief but with something else I knew all too well: humiliation and hatred. Exactly the same look he had right before he pushed me off that cliff in my last life. Finally, having fulfilled my sigh, under my icy gaze, his trembling hand picked up the pen and signed his name on the IOU with such force that the tip nearly tore through the paper. Satisfied, I folded the note neatly and tucked it into my pocket. And I turned to my parents, whose faces had gone pale with anger. Dad. Mom. Let's go home. Some stray dogs just can't be fed. I didn't raise my voice, but it was loud enough for the only other person left in the morning hall, Julian, to hear every word clearly. That summer, right after the college entrance exams, Julian's spring finally arrived. A black stretch limousine stopped in front of our shabby apartment building. Several men in black suits and sunglasses stepped out, followed by an elegant, impeccably dressed woman. They were there for Julian. It turned out he was the long-lost grandson of the Victor family, the most powerful household in the capital. Years ago, his mother had conceived him out of wedlock and been forced to give him away. Now, with the Victor patriarch gravely ill, he had demanded to see his only blood heir. Overnight, the crow turned into a phoenix. Julian was whisked away by his biological mother, the dignified woman named Vanessa. He didn't even bother saying goodbye. A week later, he returned in a gleaming new sports car, his elegant mother beside him. Vanessa looked around our cramped living room with thinly veiled distaste. From her Hermes bag, she culled out a check. In a tone dripping with condescension, she said, "Thank you for taking care of Julian all these years. Here's 500,000 yuan as compensation from the Victor family." My parents froze on the spot, faces flushing with humiliation. I was in my room doing homework, but when I heard the commotion, I came out just in time to witness the scene. And I laughed. In my previous life, they had done the exact same thing. And my foolish parents, bless their kind hearts, had refused the money, insisting it was only right to help. But this time, I wouldn't let them be humiliated again. I stepped forward, plucked the check from Vanessa's manicured fingers. And before either she or Julian could react, rip. Then again rip. Rip. Until the check was nothing but fluttering shreds of paper, scattering like snowflakes across the polished floor. "We raised a person," I said coldly, "not a dog. We don't need the Victor family's charity." I lifted my chin and met the furious gaze of the noblewoman, whose face had twisted in rage. My voice was cold and steady. "If you want your money back, that's fine. From Julian's elementary school to senior high, his tuition, living expenses, tutoring fees, and all the clothes and gifts we bought him over the years, let's settle every single cent. I've kept the records." Turning back to my room, I retrieved the two thick accounting ledgers I had prepared long ago and slammed them onto the coffee table. "Principal and interest together. That's 700 itixes thous and 500 yuan. I'll even round down for you, make it 780,000. After all, you're a wealthy family. Surely you don't mind such a small sum?" Vanessa's face turned an ugly shade of green. She probably had never been humiliated like this in her life. She turned to her son, clearly hoping he would say something. Julian's expression was equally unpleasant. He frowned and spoke to me in that same tone of weary reprimand. "Chloe, having fulfilled my obsession. Stop it. My mom didn't mean it that way." There it was again, that tone. As if I were the unreasonable, immature one causing a scene. "Stop it?" I gave a low laugh and stepped closer to him. "Julian, you ate our food, wore our clothes, and now that you've found your rich biological mother, you think we're shameless for asking what sewed? Don't forget you still owe us over 20,000 and yuan in funeral expenses. What's wrong? Now that you're the young master of the Victor family, you plan to skip out on the debt?" Each word struck home. Julian's face flushed red, then turned white, shame twisting his features. Vanessa finally snapped. "Enough!" she shrieked. "It's just money. The Victor family can afford it." She whipped out her phone, ready to transfer the amount on the spot. But I pressed down her hand, smiling like a fox with its prey cornered. "No rush. Vanessa, we can settle the money slowly. There's something else I'd like you to help me with first." Then I turned toward my father, who had been silently standing aside. "Dad, bring it out." He hesitated, then seemed to understand. His face dark, and as he went into the bedroom and returned with a brown envelope, I took the envelope and placed it in front of Vanessa and Julian. "This is your father's will. A month before his passing, he wrote it himself, with Uncle Wang and Aunt Li from the community serving as witnesses." I paused, watching the color drain from Julian's face, before continuing clearly and slowly. "In the will, he stated that since you are not his biological grandson and failed to fulfill your filial duty before his death, he bequeaths his only property, the old house you're living in now, and all his savings, totaling 34,000 yuan, to my parents, Mr. Arthur and Mrs. Linda. This is the original will and its notarized copy. So. Julian. Vanessa. I'll have to ask you to move out of our house within 3 days. The living room fell into a deathly silence. The composure of the elegant Mrs. Victor was gone. She looked stunned, absurd. Even like someone struck by lightning. Julian's face went ashen. He stared at the will in my hand as if he could bore holes through it. That's impossible. He shouted. His voice cracking. That's not possible. Grandpa loved me the most. He wouldn't give the house to you. Yes, Kite. He loved you. I said with a soft laugh. The mockery sharp in my eyes. He loved you so much that he called your name until his dying breath. And where were you then? Julian? At an internet CAF. With your girlfriend who thought you were nothing but a fool. That house was bought with my parents' money. When your grandfather fell ill. It was my mother who cared for him day and night. He was a wise man, he knew who truly loved him. My words were dull blades. Slicing away at what little dignity Julian had left. Vanessa finally snapped out of her stupor. She sprang to her feet and screamed, pointing at me. You're extorting us. I'll sue you. I'll hire the best lawyer money can buy. Be my guest. I spread my hands. Utterly calm. Black and white documents. Notarized witnesses. I'll be waiting for your lawyer's letter. But I should warn you. A lawsuit won't look good on the Victor family. A wealthy dynasty. Taking their benefactors to court over a tiny old apartment? The headlines practically write themselves. Her face turned into a swirl of colors: green, red, white, like a painter's palette. Then she shot her son a vicious glare. Filled with naked disgust. Clearly, having fulfilled Leo, she now saw her newly reclaimed son as nothing but a source of shame. In the end, they left humbled, silent. No mention of the 78,000. Nor of the 50,000. I knew they would move out. Because they couldn't afford to lose face. 3 days later. Julian and his glamorous mother packed up everything and vacated the house. When my parents went to reclaim the keys, they stood in the empty rooms. Quietly nostalgic. But I only felt relief. I cleaned the house from top to bottom and changed the locks. That night. Heavy rain poured outside. From the balcony. I saw him, Julian, standing below. Drenched. Holding an umbrella that barely shielded him. He looked lost and broken. Like a stray dog abandoned and by its master. Maybe he was remembering his grandfather. Maybe he was regretting. But what did that have to do with me? I turned away. Pulling the curtain shut. Shutting him out completely. My phone buzzed, a message from an unfamiliar number. Chloe, cut in fulfilled Xianxia. Are you happy now? You've destroyed everything I had. Why can't you just let me go? I stared at the venom-laced words and smiled. Let you go? Julian. Did you forget? In our last life. When you pushed me off that cliff. I begged you the same way. Did you let me go then? I didn't reply. Instead. I calmly opened my laptop. I spent the entire summer organizing all the posts and articles about Victor Group Sir Julian. Who abandoned his benefactor. Seized their property. And caused his adoptive grandfather to die of anger. Into a compressed file. Inside. I included the recording I had accidentally made of Belle calling him a nerd and a sucker in the bathroom. I sent the file anonymously to the editors of the most famous entertainment media outlets in the city. The email's subject read, a headline worth millions. Hope it brings you good luck. After completing this, I stretched lazily and closed my laptop. The rain outside seemed to be growing heavier. On the day the new semester began, I dragged my suitcase through the gates of a university. With the sunlight just right and the air fresh. My life was starting over. Much like this brand new admission letter in my hands. Julian's, however, was falling apart. The campus bulletin boards. The hallways of the dorms. Even the tables in the cafeteria, all were filled with students swiping their phones. Whispering to each other. Holy crap. Check out this scoop. The heir of the Victor family. Julian, Nyanana Lal Sai. Is a completing great. He's a student at our school this year. He stole his benefactor's property? Killed his adoptive grandfather? No way. Is this for real? It's so mind-blowing. And that recording. Where his ex-girlfriend, the one who got hit by a car, Calls him a useless fool in the bathroom, hahaha. This is the funniest thing I've ever heard. I calmly wheeled my suitcase through the chatter, a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. I was determined to make him the most despised rat in the street the moment he stepped into university. I saw him at the new student registration area, dressed in designer clothes. Yet his face was a mask of exhaustion and gloom. People around him pointed and whispered, as if he were some rare exhibit. Their gazes a mix of disdain, curiosity, and schadenfreude. His once lofty eyes were now bloodshot, filled with signs of paranoia and madness. He saw me. In that instant, it was as if he had found a way to vent all his frustration. He rushed at me, grabbing my wrist tightly. "Chloe, you did this, didn't you?" he hissed, his voice a low growl. "You sent this stuff to the media. You poisonous woman." The pressure on my wrist was painful, but I didn't flinch. I simply pulled my hand free, brushing off the spot he had touched, as though it had dirtied me. "Julian, do you think too highly of yourself?" I said, looking at him coldly, as though he were a stranger. "Who do you think you are? The center of the universe? Does everyone have to revolve around your pathetic issues? I'm busy with my new life. I don't have time for you." My indifference drove him mad. As he was about to snap again, a loud Porsche screeched to a halt by the curb. Vanessa stepped out, her 10-centimeter high heels clicking sharply on the pavement, her every movement filled with fury. Her oversized sunglasses couldn't hide the seething anger on her face. She strode up to us, without a word raised her hand and slapped Julian across the face. Slap. The entire registration area fell into stunned silence. Everyone froze. "Wide-eyed. You useless piece of trash," Vanessa shrieked, pointing at him. "Look at the mess you caused. The company's stock is plummeting. Is that not enough humiliation for you?" She wasn't there to defend him or protect him. She was there to blame him, the stain on the Victor family's reputation. I watched Julian stand there, clutching his face, frozen in place. His emotions cycled from anger to humiliation, and finally to total bewilderment. Perhaps it was the first time he realized that in this powerful family, he wasn't the beloved heir, he was just a flawed luxury item that could be discarded at any moment. I grabbed my suitcase, walked past the mother and son who were playing out their high society drama, and left without looking back. Behind me, Vanessa's scathing words and Julian's suppressed breathing followed. This show was truly a spectacle. To cover my living expenses, I got a part-time job as a server at a 5-star hotel. Like coincidence, the first event I worked was the anniversary celebration of the Victor family's group. I changed into my uniform, carrying a tray, and weaved through the crowd of well-dressed guests, watching the fake celebration unfold before me with cold detachment. Julian was there too. He looked like a fine porcelain and all, dressed in a sharp suit, trailing behind Vanessa. She, all smiles, was busy introducing a young man to a business magnate, praising him as a prodigy with a bright future. That young man was a distant relative of the Victor family, named Leo. Through the entire exchange, Vanessa didn't spare a single glance at Julian. He was nothing more than an invisible lackey. Julian, meanwhile, holding a glass of wine, tried to integrate himself into the laughter and conversation, but when people saw him, they scattered like they were avoiding the plague. He was isolated. In this gilded cage, he had become the most pitiful prisoner. As I watched, lost in thought, a deep, piercing gaze landed on me. I looked up and met a pair of sharp eyes, cold and calculating. It was a middle-aged man seated in a corner on a sofa. His presence was commanding, exuding power even without uttering a word. He twirled a cigar between his fingers, looking out of place in the noisy room, as if he were in a world of his own. He seemed to take in everything happening around him. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing at the corner of his lips. Our eyes locked for a brief moment, before I casually looked away. During the break, I went to the bathroom to touch up my makeup. Just as I walked down a quiet hallway, I was suddenly yanked into a storage room. It was Julian. His eyes were bloodshot, his body reeking of alcohol. All his previous arrogance was gone, replaced with desperation and madness. "Chloe." He shoved me against the wall, his voice rough and pleading. Please. Help me. Tell the media it was all a misunderstanding. Okay? If you help me, I'll give you whatever you want. I looked at him coldly. I don't want money. His eyes darkened, turning violent. Don't push me. Chloe, having fulfilled my sigh. Don't think I don't know about your family's dirty secrets. Your father was in the military because. Slap. I gathered every ounce of strength in my body and slapped him hard across the face. The sound of the slap cut through his vile threats, silencing him. Julian. I leaned in closer, a cruel smile twisting on my lips as I stared at the clear outline of my handprint on his cheek. Go ahead and say what you want. Let's see if anyone still believes the words of a snake who killed his grandfather with his own hands and is despised by those who once helped him. Do you think you're still the beloved good student everyone used to praise? Now you're nothing but rotten mud in a stinking ditch. I shoved him aside, straightened my clothes, and walked out of the room as though nothing had happened. He didn't chase after me. Behind me, I heard the muffled sound of his restrained, beast-like growls and the thudding of his fists against the wall. Pathetic, powerless rage. It was almost laughable. I exited the hotel, and a black Rolls-Royce glided silently to a stop in front of me. The back window lowered slowly, revealing the deep, cold face I had seen in the corner of the banquet hall earlier. Chloe. The man spoke, whose voice colder than the evening wind. Do you have time to talk? I got into the car. The interior was spacious, filled with the scent of fine leather and a faint trace of cigar smoke. The man handed me a business card, which only bore a name and a phone number. Victor. I'm Julian's father, he said, getting straight to the point without a hint of fatherly warmth in his tone. And I'm the one who now holds the power in the Victor family. I felt the stir of something inside me but kept my face neutral. I never wanted to acknowledge him. Victor continued, staring out the window at the retreating night. His voice was as cold as ice. He's my shame. A mistake made by my father when he was on his deathbed. A foolish decision that my stupid wife helped to turn into this farce. He's not the heir to the Victor family. He's just a stain. So that was it. The so-called recognition of Julian by the wealthy family had a far more sordid truth behind it. Julian had been nothing more than a pitiful and detestable pawn in a power struggle between factions. You've done well, Chloe, having fulfilled the obsession. Victor turned his head, his hawk-like eyes showing a flicker of approval. The fire you started burns bright, saving me a lot of trouble. But it's not enough. I want him, and his mother, who's only interested in elevating him, to be completely removed from the Victor family. Out of my sight. Once and for all. And you. He looked at me. You can be my sharpest blade. I understood now. This was a transaction. A father, willing to use an outsider to eliminate his own flesh and blood. How ironic. Yet how tempting. What do I get out of it? I asked. You want to see him fall, don't you? Victor smiled. A smile full of dark meaning. I can give you the stage, the weapons, the protection. We have a common enemy. I paused for a moment. Making deals with the devil, who knows if it's truly a curse. But if it meant making Julian and those who had hurt my family pay, then what harm was there in dancing with the devil? My goal, I lifted my head and locked eyes with him, isn't just to see him fall. I want him to be utterly destroyed, ruined in every way, living in endless regret and pain. I want everyone who has helped him or enabled him to pay the price. Victor's eyes gleamed. It was the look of a man who had found an equal. Good, he said, handing me an envelope. This is your first weapon. My wife has used company funds to fill many of her family's holes over the years. I took the envelope. It was cold to the touch. The car stopped in front of my university dormitory building. Before I got out, Victor said one final thing. Chloe, hadn't Fosel Xianxia. Don't disappoint me. I clenched the envelope in my hand, watching the luxurious car disappear into the night. I won't disappoint you. And I won't let my parents, or the version of myself who died so horribly in my last life, down either. Julian. Vanessa. Are you ready? The second act is about to begin. The Victor family held a grand press conference soon after. The theme was clarifying rumors, restoring credibility. At the press event, Julian had been meticulously groomed, wearing a white shirt with his hair neatly combed. He stood in the spotlight, reading the script prepared by the PR team with tears in his eyes, apologizing for his youthful ignorance, expressing remorse for the troubles he had caused his family and society, and showing humility to the point of self-deprecation. Vanessa sat beside him, playing the role of a loving, understanding mother. She occasionally handed him tissues. Her eyes filled with tears as the mother-son duo put on a heartfelt display that nearly moved the entire room. Public opinion seemed to be swaying in their favor. I sat in my dormitory, coldly watching the performance unfold on my computer screen. The time was almost right. I sent a message to a number, "It's time." Just as Julian bowed in apology, and the conference seemed to be coming to a close, a reporter wearing gold-rimmed glasses suddenly stood up and asked a pointed question. "Vanessa, we've received an anonymous tip-off stating that you've been embezzling company funds for years, with a huge amount involved. How do you respond?" The room erupted in chaos. Vanessa's face changed, and she sharply reprimanded, "Nonsense." But before she could finish, the giant LED screen behind them switched images. It no longer displayed the Victor family logo, but instead showed a series of bank transaction records, startling amounts spent on luxury items and huge transfers to an account named Tevin. Tevin is Vanessa's younger brother, a notorious gambler. My voice came to the reporter's voice changer, cold and clear, reverberating throughout the venue. Vanessa screamed in horror. Turn it off now." But the technician seemed paralyzed, unable to cut off the signal. The screen continued to display the damning images. Finally, it froze on a comparison chart. On the left was a list of the millions of funds Vanessa and her brother had squandered over the years. On the right was a glaring figure. 23,760 for yuan and 50 cents. A small note appeared below, Julian's grandfather's funeral expenses. Still unpaid. This strike was precise, devastating. The entire press conference erupted into chaos. Flashbulbs went off like crazy. Reporters rushed to the stage, surrounding it completely. Vanessa's vision blurred, and with a scream, she collapsed backward. As for Julian, he stood frozen in the center of the storm. He had just performed an emotional, tearful apology to salvage his reputation. In the blink of an eye, his mother had been exposed as an embezzler. And he, the filial son who couldn't even pay for his own grandfather's funeral, had become the laughingstock of the event. All of Julian's efforts instantly crumbled to dust. I closed the live stream, picked up the warm water on the table, and drank it in one go. It felt satisfying. Julian and Vanessa's lives had completely turned into a heap of mud. Vanessa was investigated for embezzlement, and Victor didn't protect her. He allowed her to be taken away. Julian was expelled from school and kicked out of the Victor family's mansion, ending up in a dark, damp-rented apartment. He had become a dog without a home. I thought he would sink into despair. But to my surprise, on the day my final exams ended, he was waiting downstairs in front of my dorm. He had lost a lot of weight, but his eyes were shockingly bright, as though something was still holding him together. "Chloe," he called out to me. "Let's talk." We sat in a CAF near the school. He carefully pulled out an old wallet from his chest pocket, opened it, and inside was a blood-stained photo booth picture of Bella. "I know you hate me." He looked at the photo, his gaze softer and more determined than I had ever seen it. "I've done wrong. I admit it. When I earn money, I will pay back everything I owe your family." But my feelings for Bella were real. She was the only light in my life. For her, I would do anything. "So yes, I really do hate you." I looked at him, playing the part of a lovesick fool, and almost laughed out loud. "Light?" I pulled something from my bag too. A pink diary, secured with a small lock. This was the final weapon Victor had given me. Bella's true secret. "Is that so?" I unlocked the diary, flipped to a page, and began to read aloud. September 12th, clear weather. Today I made a bet with Ethan that within a month, I'd definitely be able to win over that bookish loser. Julian. The way he looks so arrogantly pure is infuriating. I'm going to tear off his mask with my own hands and make him wag his tail for me like a dog. September 25th. He actually spent an entire afternoon explaining math problems to me. Oh my god. It was so boring. If it weren't for the bet, I would have thrown the book at his stupid face. But when he looks at me, with those nervous and eager eyes, it's kind of interesting. Like a little puppy who's never seen a bone before. With each line I read, Julian's face grew paler. Stop reading. He trembled. Pleading. Why would I stop? I turned to the last page. The day before the accident, October 28th. So annoying. That poor Julian actually confessed to me. I had to say yes. Ethan's taking me to a car race tomorrow. How exciting. I've already planned it after the race tomorrow. I'll tell Julian the whole thing was just a game. I really want to see him cry. It'll be hilarious. Ahahaha. After reading the final entry, I snapped the diary shut with a loud thud and pushed it in front of him. See that, Julian? The light you talk about. The reason you've hated me for so many years. The source of all your tragedies, it's all just a cruel joke Taylor made for you. She didn't go to surprise you. She went to see another man. She didn't die by accidents, he died because of her own recklessness and stupidity. The love you sought revenge for was nothing more than a cheap bet in a teenage girl's diary. Julian stared blankly at the diary, his entire body trembling. The light in his eyes. The hatred. The last shred of hope, everything shattered in that moment. No way. He mumbled to himself. As if losing his mind. He snatched the diary and started flipping through it. Page by page. The more he turned, the paler he became. His breath growing heavier. Finally, having fulfilled my upside, he let out a strangled, inhuman scream, clutching the diary like a child, and began to sob uncontrollably, crying in front of the entire CAF. I picked up the coffee in front of me and took a small sip. It was bitter. But I liked it. I stood up, looking down at the man completely broken before me. Your light is gone. Julian. Welcome to real hell. The Victor family's annual charity gala had become the most anticipated event in the city's high society. Victor seized the opportunity to reshape the family's public image and thoroughly clean up internal factions. As the only recipient of a university's first ever Victor Family Excellence Scholarship, I was invited to attend. I wore a white evening gown. Arm in arm with Leo, the new general manager of the Victor family business and Victor's newly recognized godson, walking down the red carpet under a flurry of camera flashes. The exchange of identities felt both strange and ironic. Halfway through the evening, an uninvited guest barged in. It was Julian. He was ragged, his body reeking of decay, charging toward the main table like a madman, pointing at Victor. He screamed hoarsely, "Victor! You hypocrite! You ruined my mother! You destroyed me! You'll die a miserable death!" The security guards immediately rushed to seize him. But Victor raised his hand, signaling them to stop. He stood up and walked over to Julian. His eyes filled with a hint of pity, as if looking at an ant. "Destroyed you?" He chuckled lightly. "Julian, I simply returned you to where you always belonged." Victor took the microphone from the MC, and his voice echoed throughout the banquet hall through the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take this opportunity to announce a few things." The large screen behind him lit up. The first document was a paternity test report between Victor and Julian. First, Victor continued, "Julian is indeed my biological son." The second document was a lawyer's letter, followed by a newspaper announcement. Second, as of today, I, Victor, formally sever all ties with Julian. He will be removed from the Victor family's genealogy. From now on, his actions and words will have no relation to the Victor family. A wave of gasps rippled through the room. Julian stood frozen in place, as if his spine had been ripped out. But it didn't temper. Victor clapped his hands, and Leo stepped forward. Third, Victor put his arm around Leo's shoulder, his face filled with admiration. "I will officially adopt Leo as my son. He will become the sole legal heir to the Victor family and its empire." The applause that followed was thunderous. I stood at a distance, watching this dramatic scene unfold. This was the final judgment. Julian had been stripped of his name, his identity, his future erased completely from everything he once thought he could possess. He lost utterly and completely. He no longer screamed, no longer fought back. He simply stood there, staring blankly at the unfolding scene. Then, let out a low sigh. He smiled. That smile was even more desolate than his cries, hollow and filled with despair. Finally, having fulfilled my abscess, the security dragged the now completely broken man out, his body limping like a dead dog. As he passed by me, our gazes met one last time. In his eyes, once full of pride, hatred, and madness, there was now nothing. Just an endless, barren silence. Victor descended from the stage and walked up to me, raising his glass. "Pleasure working with you, Chloe." I smiled and clinked my glass with his. "Pleasure working with you." Leo also came over, extending his hand with a gentle smile. "Chloe. Congratulations." I shook his hand, my smile serene. "And congratulations to you, President Victor." The flashbulbs went off once more, capturing this harmonious and beautiful moment. They all said I was a legend. A Cinderella who, coming from an ordinary family, won the favor of a wealthy family with her own efforts and talent. They didn't know that beneath my gown, I was treading on the corpses and shattered souls of my enemies. As for Julian, I later heard that he truly went mad. Someone saw him beneath a bridge, clutching a tattered notebook, muttering to anyone who would listen that his light had been stolen from him. The day my husband won the gold medal, he died in a car accident with Vivia. They were found clasping hands tightly, and netizens mourned their love across social media. At the funeral, I collapsed in tears. While I was in a daze, someone stabbed me viciously with a knife. When I opened my eyes again, I let him sever ties with our family and coldly watched him miss his dream due to his own mistakes. Later, he begged from a wheelchair in despair. "I was wrong, please come back. Congratulations to our gold medalist." Andrew. On TV, my husband held the figure skating championship trophy, standing on the podium to cheers from the nation. In that moment, I wept with joy. His dream had finally come true. "Andrew, what has motivated you to persevere all these years?" a reporter asked. Andrew took the microphone, his trembling hands betraying his nerves. "Today, I want to thank someone who stayed by my side when my family kept doubting me. She gave me the strength to keep going." My heart fluttered. The reporter teased. "Oh, I heard and remarried young is the person you're thinking your wife?" But Andrew didn't answer. His loving gaze fell on someone in the audience. I frowned in confusion. The camera up and down to a familiar face, Vivia. What was she doing here? Before I could process it, Andrew stepped off the podium and personally hung the medal around Vivia's neck. My emotions churned. He had promised to give his medal to his dearest love when he won. I had always thought he meant me. I squeezed the armrests of my wheelchair, staring at the two smiling brightly on TV. My breath shallow. "Andrew, you're truly something else." I couldn't wait to confront him. But on the way to the airport, I learned he'd died in a car accident with Vivia. While sorting through his belongings, I found a phone documenting his sweet love affair with Vivia. Their love was all kunstmanship, and I was the outsider. Yet I was his legal wife. My blood ran cold. At the funeral, I forced myself to greet guests without exposing his relationship with Vivia. He remained the devoted husband and figure skating champion in everyone's eyes. People mourned his death, calling it a tragedy for talent. Then a man burst in, wielding a knife and shouting, "You deserve to die. If you hadn't trapped Andrew with your life-saving grace, the two lovers wouldn't have died, and my sister wouldn't be gone." The searing pain in my abdomen silenced my protests. I fell to the ground, wronged. When I opened my eyes again, I stood outside Andrew's house. Looking down at my uninjured legs, I realized I'd been reborn. I turned and tossed the men's figure skates in my hand into the trash with disdain. Inside, Andrew's father shouted, "If you dare waste time on this useless stuff, I'll disown you. Get out." His father ordered. I sneered. The pity I had once felt for Andrew completely vanished. In my past life, I'd come to give Andrew these skates and speak up for him. But he'd called it humiliation, accusing me of mocking him. No. As he wished, I'd never interfere again. The next day, at the figure skating training camp, I heard teammates whispering and looked up to see Enru enter the training ground, covering his face. The slap marks on his face were obvious, even through his fingers. He'd clearly been punished severely last night. This was my first time seeing Enru since Rebirth. He still acted arrogantly, his teen uniform hanging loosely. When he sat beside me, his gaze lingered before he looked away. His attitude felt odd, but I couldn't place why. During theory class, I watched him fixate on Vivia. His eyes held joy at rediscovering her, even excitement. And I understood he'd been reborn too. Perfect. I'd been wondering how to avenge my past self. And here he was. Maybe even the heavens pitied me, giving me a second chance. This time, without my intervention, he'd finally see Vivia's true colors and realize how foolish he'd been. It was time to sign up for the provincial single-figure skating competition, with limited slots. The team conducted eliminations based on rankings. Vivia, with the lowest scores, failed to make the cut. With red eyes, she sobbed. Why? I tried so hard. But I can't even compete. Her friend Yana tearfully pleaded with the coach. Can't you make an exception? Vivia really worked hard. The coach glanced at Vivia aptly. Sorry. There are only so many slots. Try next time. As Vivia left in tears, Enru stopped her. Wait. He practically ordered me. Chloe. Give your slot to Vivia. I thought I misheard. What did you say? Enru said matter-of-factly. Your skating is always top tier. This competition means nothing to you. Giving Vivia the chance will let you focus on training. My heart ached. I stared at the man I'd protected so fiercely in my past life, as if seeing him for the first time. I'd hoped he'd feel guilty in this life. But I was wrong. He had no heart. He knew skating was my dream. Knew I couldn't refuse him, yet he still asked. Really? Enru. You're so good to me. Vivia said, brightening. Watching their tender exchange, I laughed bitterly. One ordered me to give up my slot. The other ignored me completely. Not even a thank you. They truly deserved each other. But their plan would fail. No one is a fool. As Enru led Vivia to change the registration, I snapped. Wait, did I agree to this? What do you mean? Enru frowned. Under their shocked stares, I stepped forward and snatched the pen from his hand, signing my name on the registration list. Understand now? Enru froze. Vivia's smile vanished, clearly stunned that I, who had always catered to Enru, had refused. Her friend Yana accused me. Chloe. Why can't you be more generous? Are teammates just tools to you? You're glad Vivia was eliminated, aren't you? Glancing at Enru, she added mockingly. Oh. I get it, you're jealous that Enru only has eyes for Vivia. Enru frowned, seeming to understand. You wanted me as your partner, right? Agreed to give up your slot. And I'll do it. His arrogance grated like being my partner was a favor. I snapped back. Are you delusional? Think everyone wants you? Your mediocre skills aren't worth it. Yana, a low sigh. Since you care so much, why don't you give up your slot? I'm sure Vivia would appreciate it. Or anyone else here who wants to volunteer? Everyone took a step back. When it came to their own interests, no one offered. Their looks toward Vivia turned skeptical. Vivia quickly pretended to cry. I didn't want to take anyone's slot. Enru's face darkened, and as he saw her distress, Chloe apologized to Vivia. I stepped forward and punched him in the gut. Dream on. I'd give this slot to anyone before I'd give it to a useless fool like you. Just then, what on a low sigh. Someone entered. Ethan, my rival, equal in skill, smirked at my action. Practicing drunken boxing. Chloe? He leaned in, studying my face, then tugged my cheek. I stepped back, annoyed. I'm not the Monkey King, what are you doing? I found shrugged, hands in pockets. You seem different. How so? Leaning against the wall, he eyed me curiously. You used to dote on Enru. Now you're hitting him. Isn't that strange? Who dotes on him? Disgusting. I shuddered at memories of my past stupidity. Then turned to the coach to request a new partner. If Andrew didn't want to pair with me, fine, I'd choose someone else. Are you teaming up with me out of spite? You used to hate me, Ethan whispered. I laced up my skates, glancing at him. I don't hate you. And your skills are better than someone's. Sliding my hand onto his shoulder, I said, enough talk, let's practice. Meanwhile, Andrew kept losing focus. And Vivia messed up again. Angry he wasn't paying attention, she stormed off. The coach snapped, some people lack Chloe's talent and refuse to practice, they don't meet professional standards. And you? Andrew, you're skilled alone. But this is pair skating. Your team might get eliminated. I calmly practiced my axel centrifugal jump. After training, I found Andrew squatting at my doorstep, a fresh slap mark on his face and a broken suitcase beside him. His father had kicked him out. In my past life, Andrew's father had always wanted him to study finance and didn't approve of his dream of figure skating. At the time, I was so eager to help him improve and gain recognition that I wanted him to be my partner. But now, I can only say he deserves it. I directly bypassed him to go home, but my wrist was tightly grabbed. Andrew stared at me, his eyes full of mockery. Are you proud to see me like this? Every time I'm in a mess, you show up at the right moment. What? Do you enjoy condescending, pitying me so much? Let me tell you, no matter how much you fawn over me, I will never like you. Listening to his arrogant remarks, I gritted my teeth harder. Thinking about how my kindness to him in my past life had turned into a reason for him to blame me, anger surged through me. I fiercely shook off his hand. What nonsense are you talking about? Average looks. But such a big ego. Do you even see what's worth liking about you? Bottom of the class grades. Mediocre skills. Ugly yet overconfident. I took out a small mirror from my pocket and threw it at him. Can you please look in the mirror? Swoosh, the small mirror scraped Andrew's face, instantly leaving a tiny bloodstain. Looking at the wound on his face, I somehow felt relieved. But you're right. I do enjoy seeing you embarrassed. Unfortunately, heading for Feldley, I'm no longer interested in you. Even if I end up on the streets, I won't spare you a glance. Ungrateful wretches never deserve sympathy. Andrew looked astonished, as if he couldn't believe these words were coming from me. I calmly turned and left, letting him stand there in a daze. The next day, having fulfilled my day, Ethan invited me to watch an amateur figure skating competition at Sun City Ice Rink. And I agreed. In my past life, to make Andrew give in, his father had cut off all his expenses. Back then, he had worked part-time delivering food near there. Now that Andrew had once been held high, I wondered if he could still swallow his pride when faced with customers' blame this time. Before the amateur competition started, Ethan took me to the snack street to eat and drink. Seeing how familiar he was with the place, I was surprised. I didn't expect a young master like you to eat this stuff. Ethan took a sip of his bubble tea and raised an eyebrow. What do you think I should eat? I thought for a moment. At least something like Tiantian snow lotus. Deer antler. Snow water. Ethan's mouth twitched. You have quite an imagination. By the way, the shop ahead is said to be an internet-famous store. Let's check it out. I looked at the time and shook my head. No. The amateur competition is about to start. Ethan grabbed my wrist. We're already here. Let's take a look, the competition is still a while away. It wasn't until I saw Andrew in a food delivery uniform that I understood Ethan's real purpose for bringing me here. Andrew had just finished delivering an order to a neighboring store and was now squatting on the curb having dinner. Just then, a shirtless man suddenly chased after him with the food. He showed Andrew the messy takeout, his face full of displeasure. How am I supposed to eat this? The oil has all spilled out. You have to pay for it. Andrew frowned and didn't back down. This isn't my problem. I only deliver it. If there's an issue, take it up with the boss yourself. Seeing that he didn't apologize and even confidently shirked responsibility, the shirtless man grew angrier. He directly flipped the food container, pouring all the takeout onto Andrew's head. What a stupid idiot. The man spat on him and then left. The noodles on Andrew's head were still steaming, and the soup dripped from his forehead into his collar. Maybe it was too hot. As a large red patch appeared on his neck. Your childhood sweetheart is so pitiable. Aren't you going to comfort him? Ethan tentatively asked. I coldly looked at Andrew, who was embarrassed not far away, and said in a deep voice, he deserves it. It's clearly his fault. Not only did he not apologize, but he also shirked responsibility. No backbone. As soon as I finished speaking, Ivan looked up at me, his eyes full of embarrassment and shame. Apparently, he had heard every word I said. Let's go. Watching the competition is better than watching a spectacle? Before leaving, I glanced at Andrew's hands clenched into fists. Did he think I was going to laugh at him? To be honest, I really wasn't interested. I thought this matter was over. But when I got back to the team, I found out that someone had taken photos of that night, made them into GIFs, and posted them on a website. Even the dialogue from the time was exactly the same. The comment section was full of people criticizing Andrew. Soon, Watadolo sorry. Everyone in the entire training camp knew that this food delivery guy was Andrew from our figure skating team. For a time, there was a lot of gossip. Wasn't he a rich second generation? Why does he still need to deliver food? He usually acts so arrogant. But why does he look so embarrassed in the pictures? That's not the point. The point is that I usually hate such irresponsible food delivery guys the most. So terrible. Ethan kept waving his phone in front of me, so I directly snatched it and exited the website. Can you stop being so idle all day? He smiled. I thought you'd want to know Andrew's news. Who does he think he is? Don't mention him in front of me. He's disgusting. Okay. Cutting fell so wide sorry. I promise I won't mention him next time. Suddenly, I met the gaze of Mia, the gossip queen, in the team. Her eyes traveled between me and Ethan, and the sly smile on her face made me shudder. There's something going on between you two. Me, what are you talking about? We're just teammates having a normal conversation. Mia, do you think I believe that? The day you joined the team, I noticed that Ethan looks at you differently, full of affection. Anyway, if you two get together, you have to treat us. I reached up to rub my temples, feeling helpless about this. In my past life, Ethan and I had been high school and college classmates. During that time, he had never shown any affection for me, and had even often picked on me. Just thinking about it now gives me the chills. I'm sure that even if he liked a pig, he couldn't like me. When I was tired from training and sat down to rest, Andrew took the initiative to come over. Just the sight of him now disgusted me. Are you a dog? You come when you smell something? Andrew's eyes were full of anger. And he relentlessly said, you achieved your goal. Are you happy? I was confused, thinking he was mentally ill. Can you stop biting people like a mad dog? Go get treatment if you're sick. Don't act crazy here. Andrew snorted coldly, still pretending. You posted the GIFs, right? Chloe, hadn't so filled by obsession. You're as vicious as ever. I was speechless at the sudden false accusation. Before I could refute, he continued, go to the broadcasting room right now and apologize to me. He accused me aggressively, as if he was certain I was the culprit. I said in a deep voice, I didn't post the GIFs. I don't have the leisure to target you every day. You and Ethan were both there that night. The only one who could have done this is you. I laughed angrily. You really know how to pick on people. There were so many people coming and going, yet you're fixated on me. Chloe, having fulfilled my obsession. If you go to the broadcasting room to clarify right now, I can let this go. Otherwise. Before he could finish, I grabbed his hair and hard slapped him twice. He was completely stunned, and the slap marks on his face were symmetrical, which I was satisfied with. Let me warn you again. Just the sight of you makes me sick. Stay away from me usually. And don't come near me. I took out a wet wipe and disgustedly wiped my fingers. Just about to go home when Andrew's voice sounded again. Chloe. You're back too, aren't you? I instantly stopped and turned to look at him. Yes, what out alone sorry. You just realized? You're really stupid. After marrying me for so many years, you still had feelings for another woman. Andrew. You're really something. Does the national team have to burn incense to have someone like you? A flash of guilt crossed his face. And the aggressive person from earlier seemed like an illusion. I covered my ears and suddenly shouted, "Enough. I'm too lazy to listen to your nonsense. The past life is over. In this life, you'd better stay far away from me when you see me. I don't want any more involvement with you. Understand?" After speaking, I didn't bother to see his reaction and directly turned to leave. In the days that followed, Andrew indeed didn't bother me, which was exactly what I wanted. Not being able to win a gold medal with my own hands in my past life had always been a regret. In this life, I will practice hard, stay away from scumbags, and enter the national team. As time passed, and the holiday was approaching, there were still a lot of ice skates in the training camp that hadn't been sorted. The coach called several people to stay and oil the roller skates, and I was one of the lucky ones chosen. Ethan came over and smiled, asking, "Need help?" His smile looked like schadenfreude to me, and I didn't expect him to help at all. "Just go. Your home is so far away. Be careful you miss the bus." I waved the oilcloth in my hand at his face. Watching his retreating back, my memory blurred for a moment. I never thought that one day Ethan and I could become such a tacit team. In our past life, we had always been rivals on the ice. After oiling the skates, they needed to be uniformly stored in the isolation room. Unfortunately, hadn't fulfilledly. After the others finished their tasks, they all left, leaving only Andrew and me. I had no choice but to do the final cleanup with him. Just as we finished organizing the skates and were about to leave, a familiar voice suddenly came from the changing room. "Did you see the GIFs on the website?" "It's so funny. I made them." Andrew froze instantly. He knew this voice all too well. It was the woman he had loved for 2 lifetimes. There was no other voice inside. So she must have been on the phone. It's because Andrew used to always be with Chloe. If they became partners, what would happen to me? Now it's good. Andrew and I are partners. Even if I'm not good enough, with him around, we can at least get a ranking. Don't worry. I love you the most. He's not even my backup. I have to say, this live expos was truly exciting. After Andrew died in my past life, many former classmates had come to see me. One female classmate had subtly told me about what Vivia had done. At the time, I was shocked and confused. Now, I finally understood. To her, Andrew was just a stepping stone to rise. Suddenly, heading fulfilledly, I thought of the car accident that killed the 2 of them in my past life, which netizens had mourned as a tragic love story. Now I realized it was nothing but a simple accident. I stared at Andrew's shocked and angry expression, feeling a rush of satisfaction. After 2 lifetimes, he was the biggest joke of all. Before I could mock him, Andrew stormed into the locker room. A scream followed. "Andrew, what are you doing here?" came Vivia's panicked voice. "Otherwise, how would I know you've been keeping me as a backup? I loved you so much. This is how you repay me?" "No. You misunderstood." Vivia's voice trembled. "I thought any man would lose his mind in this situation. And Andrew was no exception." How dare you hit me? You'll regret this." Hearing the commotion inside, I scoffed. "Andrew, already angry? Vivia has bigger surprises in store for you." I didn't bother watching their drama and turned to leave. Time flew, and my parents planned another weekend picnic. I dreaded going, knowing Andrew would be there too. We were neighbors, and our families had always gone on picnics together. No one ever skipped out. So I reluctantly agreed under my parents' gaze. But some people truly had no shame. Despite what he'd done, Andrew approached me with a fake smile. "Chloe, you're here. Let's go grill meat together." He reached for my hand, but I swatted it away. "Get your filthy paws off me." "Disgusting." Andrew froze, frowning. "Chloe, I know I misunderstood you before, but there's no need to be so rude. We grew up together. Don't be so harsh." I laughed bitterly. "If you can't stand my attitude, stay away. No need to pretend in front of our parents." Recalling he'd been kicked out, I added sarcastically. "Or, are you afraid I'll tell your dad? Trying to seduce me now? Worried about losing face?" Caught off guard, Andrew's face darkened. Don't push your luck. I know you still like me. Even if you're trying to get my attention. This is too much. We can still be partners if you go back to normal. In his eyes, the old Chloe who fawned over him was normal. And my current self was an act. He couldn't believe I'd truly given up on him. I guess I've been too nice. Letting you act so entitled around me. Let me repeat, we're done. Your life is none of my business. Got it. Pink hair freak? Andrew turned pale instantly. Pink hair freak was a nickname classmates had given him based on a viral photo. It always made him furious. This time was no different. Andrew raised his hand to hit me. But his father stopped him. Andrew. Don't you dare. His father glared at him. What did Chloe do to deserve this? Andrew's father and my dad were close friends. So he'd always treated me like family. But he was strict with Andrew, punishing him for even minor mistakes. Andrew had been beaten countless times as a child. An idea struck me. While grilling, I casually mentioned recent school incidents, exposing how Andrew had slandered teammates and embarrassed himself. Andrew's father's expression darkened, while Andrew fishing nearby had no idea what was coming. As expected, his father couldn't wait to confront him. Son. What's going on? Slap. Andrew's cheeks welled instantly. And he stood there in shock. Brother. Let's talk this out. Why hit him? My dad intervened. Stay out of this. Chloe. I need to teach this brat a lesson today. Andrew's father poked Andrew's head. Yelling, heading to faux sigh. You've been humiliating me while I've been letting you chase this skating dream. What a worthless son. You said skating was your dream. So I supported you. This is the surprise. You give me? No talent. Just trouble, and you dare bully Chloe. In front of my parents. Andrew's father didn't hold back, tearing Andrew down completely. I added fuel to the fire. It's okay. Uncle. I'm used to it. After all, he likes that girl. So I get why he'd want to protect her. This enraged Andrew's father even more. You like some manipulative girl? Pathetic. Did I raise you to be someone's backup? Andrew mumbled. No. Break up with her immediately. If I catch you with her again, I'll kick you out of the skating team for good. Andrew had to choose between his girlfriend and his dream. Which would he pick? Oh, and apologized to Chloe for wronging her. Andrew glanced at me awkwardly. Sorry. I pretended not to hear. His father snapped. Louder. You sound like a mouse. Sorry. Watching his humiliated expression, I felt satisfied. Fine. I forgive you. My dad quickly pulled Andrew's father aside to diffuse the tension. Let the kids sort this out. Let's eat. You happy now? Andrew approached. His expression complicated. I rolled my eyes and walked away to grill corn. Based on his past life's personality, he'd never tolerate such disrespect. But soon, he placed a skewer of grilled squid in my bowl. Strangely, this was the first time Andrew had ever done something like this for me. In either life. Staring at the squid, my mind wandered. In my past life, no matter how busy I was, I'd always cook for him. He'd never look at me while eating, let alone serve me. He'd leave as soon as he finished, treating our home like a hotel. I'd thought his coldness was due to training stress. But when I found a folder named, My Treasure, among his things, I realized how naive I'd been. It was full of neatly organized photos of Vivia, each clearly taken with care. When he gave her the gold medal, I was shocked but not heartbroken. Men often stray. Right? But the truth hit harder. After a decade of marriage, I'd never mattered to him. Even in this rebirth, memories of my Rue and legs and shattered dreams still ached. All my sacrifices had been for nothing. How ridiculous my life had been. Now that you've forgiven me, let's move past this. Andrew's voice jolted me back. I tossed the squid aside with a sneer. You think I really forgave you? That was just to save face for the elders. Even the police need evidence to charge someone. But you just dumped blame on me with no proof. Andrew opened his mouth but said nothing. Mocking him, I added, how does it feel to be stabbed in the back by your first love? I thought you two were true love. Turns out it's all one-sided. Andrew protested instinctively. No. Vivia loves me. She explained that some thuds threat and her she had to say those things to protect me. I paused. Then sighed. Of course birds of a feather flock together. Andrew lost all reason when it came to Vivia. He'd heard her betrayal with his own ears, but still fell for her excuses. If he didn't care, why should I? Enjoy the delusion. Then, during a lecture, I was shocked to find Ethan sitting beside me again. Did you really pick all the same electives as me? Isn't that a coincidence? Seeing my confusion, Ethan pulled out his schedule. It matched mine exactly. I'd thought he liked me. But it was just a coincidence. Embarrassed, I mumbled. You should have said earlier. I misunderstood. My voice trailed off. Ethan leaned in, asking, "What did you say?" He smelled of mint, oddly pleasant. Before I could react, he turned, and our eyes met. Sorry. I didn't catch that. Could you repeat it? I froze, staring at his sharp features, high cheekbones, deep eyes, even a charming mole on his nose. Is it good looking? He teased. Why, yes. I blurted out. Try to focus in class. At least. I snapped back to find the professor and classmates staring at me. After class, I sighed while copying notes. Ethan propped up his head, smirking impossible to ignore. Enough. If you hadn't seduced me with your looks, would I be punished by the professor like this? I slammed my pen on the desk and glared at Ethan. Let me ask you a question. Answer honestly. And I'll take care of all the copying homework. Deal? I eyed him suspiciously, sensing he might have ulterior motives. But thinking of the 50 times I had to copy, I nodded immediately. Ethan looked at me seriously and asked, "Do you really not like Andrew anymore?" It was a question lacking depth. After being a fool for so long in my past life, now that I have a second chance, who would want to go back? Besides, he's such a scumbag. No. But can you really let go of the friendship you had as childhood sweethearts? Ethan seemed skeptical. I continued. Everyone makes mistakes in judgment. But once they wake up, they never look back. To me now, Andrew is just a stumbling block in life. And I've already stepped over him. After I finished, Ethan directly took my pen and started copying for me, unable to hide the smile on his face. I didn't understand, was copying homework really that enjoyable? Time flew. And soon it was time for the school preliminary competition. This time, my partner became Ethan. When I saw the ice skates in my hand, I instantly remembered my past life. During a high-difficulty spin with Andrew, his skate malfunctioned, and he lost control, speeding toward the fence. To protect him, I used my body to block the impact, ultimately causing paralysis in both legs. At the time, everyone blamed Andrew, calling him arrogant. He was supposed to be banned from competitions for his grave mistake. But as the victim, I issued a letter of forgiveness, allowing him to return to the ice. I was happy for him then. But he didn't visit me once while I was in the hospital. I thought he was too ashamed to face me. I pulled back from my thoughts and glanced at Andrew not far away. Seeing he was wearing the exact same skates as in my past life, I froze. Was he courting death? As expected, Andrew's skates had been tampered with. Just like in my past life. This time, he was with Vivia. When Vivia realized something was wrong, she instantly let go of his hand and pushed him away so quickly that even I was impressed. Andrew was shocked but quickly calmed down to save himself. However, the rescuers arrived too late, and he crashed into the fence. Fortunately, having fulfilled Leand's sub, he protected his head and remained conscious, though unable to sit up. The team was tense after the incident. Vivia rushed to Andrew's side, feigning panic. "Are you okay?" "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to let go." Andrew soothed her softly. "It's okay. You did the right thing, at least we didn't both get hurt." Vivia wiped her tears for a while, before wondering aloud, "With your skills, this shouldn't have happened. Could it be the Spates?" At this, yet unfulfilled "I'm sorry." Everyone's gaze turned to Andrew's skates. The professionals immediately saw they had been tampered with. Who's so vicious to loosen the screws on purpose? This must be investigated, it's too vicious. We must root out the bad apple in the team. The coach maintained order and said seriously, "I will get to the bottom of this. Please trust me." No need. Andrew interjected coldly. I know who did it. His icy gaze pierced through the crowd to land on me. Will you admit it yourself? Or should I expose you? Me, why are you looking at me? I didn't do this. Andrew's eyes flashed with disappointment. His tone harsh. Chloe. You still won't admit it. The crowd gasped in shock. I stared into his eyes without flinching. If I didn't do it, what should I admit? I already had a good idea of who was behind this. But I kept quiet. Only this way would it be more satisfying when he learned the truth. Just then, a thun suddenly stepped in front of me. Even the police need evidence to convict someone. How dare you slander her with empty words? As he spoke, teammates who knew my character rallied behind me. Right. It can't be Chloe. What would she gain from sabotaging your skates? Exactly. Andrew's face darkened at the skepticism. Fine. I applied a layer of hard-to-wash fluorescent powder on the skates. It will show under a UV light. Chloe. If you didn't do it, dare you show everyone your hands? I crossed my arms and scoffed at him. If it's not me, what will you do? Andrew's expression turned icy. More convinced of his guess. If it's not you, I'll apologize. Before he could finish, a teammate exclaimed, It's her. Vivia has fluorescent powder on her hands. Andrew froze and spun around. How is this possible? The teammate handed him a UV pen. See for yourself. It was your partner who tried to frame you. Yet you wronged Chloe. Are you upset she didn't choose you as her partner this time? Disgusting. Andrew struggled to pry open Vivia's palm. The fluorescent powder glowed brightly under the UV light. The moment he saw the truth, Andrew's pen dropped from his hand. He looked up at Vivia. Why, having fulfilled my obsession. Vivia? Vivia avoided his gaze. Her lips bloodless. I didn't mean to. I accidentally broke your skates. And I was scared. Andrew seemed shattered, gripping her arm tightly as if deaf to her cries. You said you saw Chloe tamper with my skates. You lied. What did you gain from this? Tell me. Andrew's eyes were bloodshot. Almost hysterical. Watching their confrontation, I felt nothing but irony. Vivia tried to defend herself. I really broke them by accident. I just didn't dare to tell you. I sneered and exposed her. Oh? If it was an accident, why did the surveillance show you sneaking around? Don't tell me you were playing hide and seek with friends. Wait. Vivia was about to agree when she saw the team's disgusted expressions and realized her mistake. Bitch. You tricked me. She lunged forward to hit me. But Ethan, who had been guarding me, pushed her to the ground. I usually dislike men who hit women. But now I thought Ethan's back looked handsome. The woman on the ground wept. But Andrew showed no emotion. Enough. No more excuses. Whether intentional or not, you can't escape responsibility for this. The coach informed the school leaders, who decided that since the incident had caused a stir, Vivia should be expelled to protect the school's reputation. She immediately knelt and begged, No. Forgive me this once. I won't do it again. She never expected Andrew to have applied fluorescent powder to his skates. Everything had gone smoothly until this flaw. Soon, went out a low sorry. Everyone learned about Vivia's attempt to frame me. Her innocent girl image shattered, revealing her as a poisonous man-eater. People avoided her like the plague. Sitting in the stands, I felt dazed. In my past life, Andrew's coldness toward me was all because of Vivia's sowing discord. That's why he thought I always showed up to laugh at his misfortune, even suspecting I'd plotted my own paralysis to win his affection. We'd known each other since childhood, even if he didn't love me. He should have known my character. Yet he chose to believe Vivia's lies and condemn me without a word. How ridiculous. Because we were close. The coach asked me to accompany Andrew to the hospital for checks. I fell asleep in a chair and had a dream. I was alone at home, cooking in a wheelchair, while Andrew ate quickly and left. I could only watch his back. But in this dream, I stood up from the wheelchair and walked out of the house that had confined me for half my life, smiling as Andrew stared in shock. I woke with a smile to find Andrew already out of the examination room. He'd been watching me from his wheelchair. His eyes filled with sorrow. Chloe, heading to Silway, I'm sorry. I wronged I frowned and interrupted, is sorry your mantra? In my past life, I lost my leg saving you. But because of Vivia's words, you gave me the cold shoulder. Do you know how hard those days were? You don't know. Because you never cared. Do you know how I died in my past life? Vivia's brother stabbed me to death at your funeral, saying I'd blocked your love story. Did I force you to marry me? I listed every wrong he'd done to me. I thought I'd let go. But the truth was I hadn't. The 10 years I lost my dreams. The 10 years of loneliness all real. When I learned it was all a setup, I couldn't help but feel angry and hateful. Andrew shuddered at the hatred in my eyes. His face pale. It's all Vivia's fault. I can make it up to you. Chloe. Give me another chance. I won't fail you this time. Too little. Too late. I no longer cared. I grabbed his chin and shoved him away. When you died with Vivia, I realized I didn't love you anymore. I don't want your atonement, Andrew. I was blind to love you in my past life. Thank God I got a second chance. Andrew shook his head, refusing to believe I no longer loved him. No, that can't be. You loved me so much. You forgot that when I liked girls in white dresses. You bought dozens of white skirts and wore them for me every day. And, during exams, I forgot my admission ticket, so you ran back to get it for me. But you couldn't enter the exam hall yourself. I was always your first choice. Yes. I feel sorry for my past self. Watching him wallow in memories, I only feel disgusted. Andrew. When I liked you, you disdained me. Now that I don't like you, you're clinging like a lapdog. Aren't you ashamed? Andrew froze, staring at me and murmuring, my Chloe would never treat me like this. You're not my Chloe. Are you? Give her back to me. Please. Listening to his affectionate tone, my stomach churned. After notifying his family, I couldn't stay any longer. But Andrew hugged me tightly. Don't go. Please. I loved you in my past life. Chloe. If I hadn't trusted Vivia, we would have grown old together. I regret it now. If you don't believe me, can I chase you again? Love me? Chase me again? I sneered, struggling to break free. Have you read too many novels? Do you really think the heroine should forgive the hero no matter what he did? I didn't know whether to call him naive or stupid, just because I followed him in my past life. He thought I couldn't live without him? He was wrong. I wasn't some brainless heroine. Our ending would only be a bad ending. Let go before I make you. Andrew held my waist so tightly I nearly fainted. Just then, well sorry. Ethan appeared at the end of the corridor. Seeing my distress, he rushed over and pulled me out of Andrew's arms. Leaning into him, I said softly, why did you come so late? Your girlfriend was being bullied. I glanced at him, and he immediately understood. Don't worry. With me here, no one will bully you. You too. Andrew looked devastated, his eyes red. I wrapped my arms around Ethan's neck and kissed his cheek, then smiled triumphantly. Yes, Eve too. Ethan and I are together. You have no chance. Before Andrew could react, I grabbed Ethan's hand and left. After walking for a while, I realized I was still holding his wrist. The moment I let go, a flicker of disappointment crossed his eyes. I didn't think much of it. Thanks. If you hadn't come, I'd still be listening to nonsense. Ethan whirled his fingertips, looking down at me with an unreadable expression. Have you cleared up the misunderstanding? Will you choose him as your partner again? Absolutely not. We've known each other for so long. It'd be hard to build chemistry with a new partner. I thought he was worried I'd switch partners after the competition. After all, everyone knew how I'd once fawned over Andrew. Although I was reborn, my past foolishness had left a deep impression on classmates. Given the trouble Andrew had caused me recently, not to mention the grudges from my past life, there was no way I'd choose him. Do you not want to be my partner? I asked tentatively. Ethan shook his head quickly. No. I just feared you might still have feelings for him and abandon me. Actually, Andrew isn't a good person. It's a good thing you finally saw his true colors through this. I think he and Vivia deserve each other. I agreed. If they were stuck together, they'd stop hurting others. I took out my phone to book a taxi. Vivia injured Andrew's leg. This won't end here. Just wait, there's more drama to come. Soon my taxi arrived. Before getting in, I patted Ivan's shoulder. Don't worry. Unless something unexpected happens, you'll be my final partner. News of Vivia spread like wildfire at school, and the school issued a circular criticizing her. Everyone was talking. Some asked me, the victim, for gossip. Why would they frame you? Did you do something terrible? I could only smile and shake my head. How could I say it was because I'd disturbed the fish in her pond? Just thinking of Andrew, that dirty-hearted fish, made me shudder. When Andrew got injured, his first thought was to blame others. He doesn't deserve pity. I heard he's always hated Chloe. So he wanted to pin the blame on her. Even though Chloe used to chase him. She's ignored him lately. Is he jealous? He and Vivia are a perfect match, neither is a good person. The forum was full of similar comments. When Andrew's parents learned about his injured legs and the truth, his father erupted in anger, vowing to expel Vivia. The coach pleaded for a private settlement. But as an only son from a wealthy family, Andrew's father wouldn't let the culprit off easily. He demanded either full compensation for medical fees or expulsion. Vivia collapsed. From a modest background, she'd worked hard to get into this university. Now everything was slipping away, and she refused to accept it. She tearfully begged Andrew to help, but he didn't even glance at her. Eventually, Hedin fulfilled my sorry. The school expelled Vivia. Days after Vivia left, her brother Cain showed up, holding a sign at the school gate accusing the institution of framing students. At the sight of his familiar face, my abdomen began to ache. The same man who'd stabbed me without hesitation in my past life. I was the victim. Yet he'd blamed me for everything. Vivia's brother is a loan shark. I've seen him blocking people outside school multiple times. He's probably here to cause trouble for Vivia. You should stay away. But why should I hide when I'd done nothing wrong? I wanted to see what he'd do, whether he'd stab me again as he had in my past life. Ignoring classmates' warnings, I approached him. Hello. Are you Vivia's brother? The man glanced at me and shoved me aside. Who are you? Scram. Don't interfere. His unruly demeanor matched the memory of him storming into the funeral hall, completely unreasonable. I'm Chloe, I said coldly. The man spun around, his cloudy eyes fixing on me like a predator eyeing prey. You're the one who got my sister expelled? I shook my head. You should ask her partner about what happened to your sister. Just then, Andrew rolled out in a wheelchair. I pointed at him and said, Look, it's him. Actually, it's not impossible for Vivia to come back, all it takes is a word from him. Really? The man sounded skeptical. Believe it or not, that's all I have to say. I waved my hand and fell silent. Doubt had taken root in the man's mind. With his reckless temper, he'd pester Andrew regardless of the outcome. I slipped into the crowd to wait for the show. As expected, when Andrew appeared, the man blocked his path. Frowning, Andrew looked up. Please move, need to go home. Cain threw the sign at Andrew and started making a scene. Sign a letter of forgiveness for my sister and get her back into school. Or I won't let you leave. Your sister? Andrew glanced at the sign with Vivia's photo and understood. Vivia hurt people on purpose. Expelling her was too lenient. Cain might not be a good person, but his love for his sister was evident from how he'd avenged her in my past life. He'd do anything for her. Andrew's words crossed Cain's line. Fury erupted in Cain. What did you say? How dare you badmouth my sister in front of me? Do you think I'm useless? Cain punched Andrew in the eyebrow. Andrew lost his balance and fell from the wheelchair. School security rushed to intervene. I couldn't restrain the enraged Cain. Standing over Andrew, he threatened. Kid, hey, I'll remember you. If my sister isn't happy, neither will you. Andrew, accustomed to pride, refused to yield. He touched his bleeding eyebrow and winced. You caused a scene at school and injured me. Why would I forgive someone who's hurt me repeatedly? Hearing this, Cain calmed down. Then what do you want me to do? I stepped out intentionally, letting Andrew see me. After being wronged so many times, now that the truth was out and he felt guilty, if he had any conscience, he wouldn't sign a forgiveness letter in front of me. Sensing my gaze, Andrew froze for a moment. Then sneered at Kane without hesitation. Vivia is stupid. But her brother is even more naive. Getting back into school? Impossible. Andrew's uncompromising tone left Kane red-eyed with rage. Pointing at Andrew, he cursed. Just you wait. I won't let this go. After leaving the threat, Kane stormed off. I smiled in satisfaction. Andrew had thoroughly offended Kane. His days ahead would be far from easy. Chloe, can you help me up? My legs hurt. Andrew rested his hand on the wheelchair, looking at me hopefully. I glanced at him in disdain. How dare you ask me, a young girl, to help you when there are so many people around? Are you trying to take advantage of me? As soon as the words left my mouth, the sympathetic looks from the crowd instantly turned complicated. With just one sentence, I made Andrew feel embarrassed. He forced a smile and explained, you misunderstood. Since we're partners, I thought to ask you for help, so they know each other. There's nothing wrong with asking someone you know for help, but this girl is being too cold-hearted. Was he trying to use public opinion to make me give in? No wonder he'd lived under the spotlight for so many years. He easily skewed the narrative. But he underestimated me. With red eyes, I said sadly, Andrew, you've wronged me so many times for Vivia. I have a shadow in my heart. Can't you just leave me alone? Loving you was the biggest mistake of my life. And I'm truly scared now. With that, I wiped my tears and asked the security guard to help him into a wheelchair. I perfectly portrayed the role of a girl who still showed kindness after betrayal. Such scenes always strike a chord with people, especially many girls who had suffered similar hurts. Who loudly accused Andrew on the spot. What a jerk. He's already got one foot in the door but still eyeing what's outside. Such a scumbag. While everyone was mercilessly scolding Andrew, I slipped away quietly. With a leg injury, Andrew couldn't practice anymore. But instead of going home, he applied to stay in the training camp. I couldn't understand why he wouldn't rest at home but insisted on staying here to annoy me. Ethan turned my head again, sighing. All right. You've been staring at him for 5 minutes during this 40-minute practice session. Ever since Ethan and I started demonstrating practice moves in the rink, Andrew's eyes had been fixed on me. I couldn't ignore it. And accidentally tripped over my own feet, nearly falling flat on my face. Ethan scooped me up in his arms. I panicked and wrapped my arms around his neck. Thank goodness for you, or my face would have been ruined. After setting me down, he flicked my forehead gently. Idiot. Focus during training. Don't let irrelevant people distract you. I covered my forehead and glared at him. You're getting more and more outrageous now. You're even hitting me. In our past life, we often bantered in high school. After I got married, he gradually disappeared from my life. I only occasionally heard about him on TV, winning gold medals in men's singles figure skating. Unfortunately, hadn't fulfilled way. By then, I could only sit in a wheelchair, having lost my former spirit. Pulling my thoughts back, the man in front of me smiled smugly, facing this handsome face. Can't you bear to hit me? Hearing his as always annoying tone, I finally felt alive again. The next second, I reached for his armpit, his weak spot. When we first became partners, I often accidentally touched his armpit, and his strong reaction made me realize he was ticklish. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Dream on. Today, I'll make sure you know who's boss. I ran and laughed, completely ignoring Andrew in his wheelchair, whose face had turned as dark as a storm cloud. On the way home after training, I followed Andrew unhurriedly. His father wanted me to accompany him home daily since he was now disabled, and I'd agreed. Truthfully, I found it somewhat amusing to watch Andrew struggle to push his wheelchair. He deserved a taste of the hardship I'd endured in my past life with a wheelchair. The man ahead suddenly stopped and turned his wheelchair to face me. You were happy today? I nodded. Yep. Of course I'm happy when there are no flies buzzing in my ear. Andrew's hands on the wheelchair armrests tensed abruptly. Chloe. Once I recover, let's be partners again. I glanced at his legs and shook my head. No need. I've already found the perfect partner and have no intention of changing. Figure skating partners need to build tacit understanding. Andrew and I had spent so long honing our partnership and finally made progress. But now he wanted to switch back? A disabled person, where did he get the nerve? Andrew misinterpreted my gaze as concern and his eyes lit up. Chloe. Don't worry. My legs will recover soon. And then we can win gold medals together. We'll get married. And I'll treat you well for the rest of my life. Chloe, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. I really love you. The more I heard, the more disgusted I felt. Enough. Please, stop disgusting me. Can you just stay away? Watch out, I really hit you. I picked up a thick wooden stick from the roadside and waved it at him. Andrew froze. Then closed his eyes and said, if it helps you vent. Hit me hard. But Chloe, could you really bear to? His words made me shudder. Before I could respond, we were interrupted. That's the wheelchair kid. Grab him. Kane and a group of thugs blocked our path. I instinctively stepped back, distancing myself from Andrew. Kane walked out with a thick stick, sneering at Andrew. I finally caught you. Do you have anything to say? Andrew glanced at me, his expression flickering. I rolled my eyes in frustration. He still hadn't changed his habit of fleeing from trouble. Pathetic. I walked up to Kane and smiled. Brother. Do you remember me? Kane thought for a moment and quickly recognized me. It's you. Why are you with him? Don't tell me you too. How could that be? I shook my head vigorously, distancing myself from Andrew. We just happen to be going the same way. Do whatever you want, I won't say a word. Kane was pleased with my attitude and nodded approvingly. Fine. You leave. He stays. Andrew called out to me urgently. Chloe. I did all this for you. Save me. Don't go. This man who claimed to love me had instantly betrayed me at the first sign of danger. His love was truly cheap. As Kane began to doubt me, I retorted immediately. For me? I had nothing to do with your issues. How is this about me? Vivia disabled you. Your parents forced her to drop out. And I'm just an innocent scapegoat. I deliberately clarified the dynamics between the three of us for Kane. Kane snapped impatiently. Shut up. I'm only after Andrew. Go now. Before Andrew could say more, Kane brought the stick down hard. I hate spineless cowards like you the most. Andrew rolled to the ground to dodge, squirming like a maggot and letting out ear-piercing screams. No. Aren't you afraid of going to jail? Kane hated being threatened and struck even harder. It's just a fight at worst. A few days in detention. Besides, there are no cameras here. Who will know? Kane was ruthless. And I could hear Andrew's screams from the alley entrance. I only stepped out after Kane and his men left. Andrew's wheelchair lay on its side. And he curled up motionless in the corner, covered in footprints. I kicked his hand. Wake up. Stop pretending to be dead, they're gone. I wouldn't have bothered with him if I hadn't promised his father to get him home. At my voice, Andrew slowly turned his head. When I saw his face, I nearly burst out laughing. The man's face was a mess of purple and blue bruises. Unrecognizable. Kane knew how to exact revenge. Andrew's eyelids fluttered open slightly. And the first words out of his mouth annoyed me. Chloe. How could you become like this? Don't you care if I live or die? I twitched my lips and retorted. Why should I care? Should I get dragged into your vendetta? Andrew looked disheartened. Whining. But you once gave up your legs for me. Could your feelings for me really fade so easily? I laughed at this man accusing me of being fickle. In our past life, he'd ignored my sacrifices. And I'd thought his love for Vivia was unshakable. If he'd stood by Vivia this time, I might not have looked down on him so much. Instead, he'd immediately started pestering me after learning the truth. The once brilliant man on the ice had become dull. I couldn't help asking. What about you? Sure you don't want to get back with Vivia? Not long ago, he'd defended her so fiercely. Andrew fell silent. Sometimes, silence says it all. I scoffed in disdain. Your so-called love is worthless to me. The next day, as soon as I entered school, I heard gossip that Andrew had sued Vivia's brother. I wasn't surprised. Andrew had never been one to suffer in silence. His injuries were enough to put Kane in prison for a while. This outcome satisfied me. A form of closure for my wrongful death in the past life. A few days later, on the weekend, I went out to meet a friend and unexpectedly ran into Vivia on the road. She knelt on the ground begging Andrew to spare her brother. I really regret it. Can't you forgive my brother for my sake? Forgive him? But who will forgive me? Andrew's gaze was icy. His tone like frost. His former lover meant nothing to him now. Vivia couldn't bear his coldness and burst into tears. I didn't target you before. I was just jealous of Chloe. You hated Chloe too. Why do you hate me so much now? She couldn't understand. Andrew frowned and shoved her away harshly. I hated Chloe because you told me she had impure motives. That her kindness was just to marry into my family. I laughed. Was the Andrew family some unattainable aristocratic family worth my scheming? You believed everything I said. How can you deny you hated her? Vivia stood up and screamed at him hysterically. I'm telling you. It's too late to turn back. Chloe already has a new partner who's better than me in every way. They'll be together soon. Hearing this, I couldn't help interjecting. Hey, having fulfilled my obsession. That's actually true. Chloe. Both turned to look at me. What's wrong? Keep going. I'm just passing by. As I spoke, I directly stepped past them without glancing at the expressions of the two behind me. Witnessing such a dramatic scene right after stepping out lifted my spirits immensely. Humming a tune, I made a beeline for my best friend's place. She was a relationship expert, or as people commonly called her, a matchmaker. These days, I'd noticed my gaze lingering on Ethan involuntarily, so I sought her advice. But my opening words missed the mark entirely. I never expected he'd be so stubborn. Dealing with him is like stepping in dog shit, impossible to shake off. I cupped my cheeks, whining pitifully to my best friend Tina. Ugh. That sounds awful. Such clingy people are truly terrifying. Haven't you thought of getting a boyfriend to make him give up? I immediately perked up. I did. I even kissed someone else right in front of him. But he wouldn't believe it. What else can I do? Wait. What? Tina slammed her coffee cup down. Did you just say you kissed someone else in front of him? So. Who's this, someone else? She stared at me with a sly grin. I took a deep breath. That's exactly why I'm here today. I need you to help me analyze this. I recounted everything that had happened between Ethan and me recently. Tina's eyes lit up, and she slapped my shoulder excitedly. You're in luck, girl. This Ethan is 1,000 times better than that Andrew. Trust me. Seize the opportunity. And all your worries will vanish. Her certainty made me hesitant. But I nodded. All right, I'll give it a shot. To be honest, Ethan was exactly my type. His narrow waist and toned figure. The way his large hands held my waist during practice, they all left me daydreaming. The plan to make Andrew give up was non-negotiable. But before I could pursue Ethan, I noticed he'd been acting suspiciously lately. I recognized this behavior all too well. Either he had something to hide, or he was dating someone else. Could it be that I'd already missed my chance? After training one day, I kept a close eye on Ethan's movements and followed him to the stairwell. To my shock, the person he met was Andrew. I instinctively hid behind the door to eavesdrop. I need you to voluntarily give up being Chloe's partner. Andrew began. Chloe originally wanted me as her partner. Don't you want to avoid being replaced by me once my legs heal? Hearing this, I saw red. How dare Andrew played Erdy behind my back. Ethan. Please don't fall for his lies. Just as I clenched my fists, ready to confront them, Ethan laughed softly. You must have already tried this on Chloe. And she rejected you. That's why you're here. Andrew's face darkened. Your skills are good enough for singles skating. Pair skating doesn't benefit you. So what? You didn't know? The whole reason I got into this sport was because of Chloe. Ethan's voice rose. I clapped a hand over my mouth, feeling dizzy with surprise. I'd just decided to pursue Ethan. And now this. Should I keep going or not? I stayed hidden, continuing to listen. I've liked her since high school. But you two were childhood sweethearts. Everything seemed so natural between you, and even confessing felt pointless. Now, your indifference has given me a chance. After waiting all these years, I can finally stand by her side. Do you really think I'd let you hurt her again? Andrew's arms tensed, veins bulging as he grew agitated. But she likes me. She'll never like you. His words reeked of self-deception. But Ethan seemed to waver. His hands trembling, taking advantage. Andrew wheeled past Ethan, sneering. Scared? Believe me, having fulfilled my obsession. All I need to do is snap my fingers. And Chloe will come back to me. Just as I thought Ethan might give in, he suddenly grabbed Andrew's wheelchair. His voice dropped to a cold whisper. Even if she still likes you, I'll never let that happen. No one waits forever. You lost the right to be by her side the moment you framed her. Again and again. After Andrew left, Ethan stood motionless, lost in thought. I planned to slip away quietly, but the sadness in his stance tugged at my heart. I crept up to him, pretending I'd just arrived. Aren't you leaving yet? What's wrong? Ethan spun around. His tear-filled eyes startled me. Are you crying? Why? Did Andrew's words really hurt him that much? I fumbled for words, all my prepared speeches vanishing. Don't tell me you believed Andrew's nonsense. You can't seriously think I'd go back to him at the snap of his fingers? Ethan stared at me silently. Great. He did believe it. I held up 3 fingers solemnly. Listen carefully. Chloe, do not like Andrew at all. I never go back to exes. When he still didn't speak, just kept staring, I grew nervous. You heard everything, didn't you? Ethan suddenly asked. You also heard that I've been secretly in love with you. Right. Chloe? As someone who'd been married before, I thought I was immune to confessions. But this caught me off guard. Seeing my silence, Ethan panicked. Just as I thought he might retreat, he looked at me earnestly and said, Yes, have we too? Chloe, I've liked you for a long time. From high school, when you competed with me for first place, to choosing the same university, to becoming your partner, all of it was intentional. His tone was steady, but I noticed his hands shaking. The man who'd vowed to stop me from loving others wasn't as confident as he seemed. I couldn't help but smile. Why didn't you say anything before? Had we missed each other in my past life too? I wondered. Ethan's eyes dimmed, and he laughed bitterly. I was afraid. You liked Andrew so much. How could I come between you? But luckily I stayed by your side long enough to get my chance. He looked up suddenly, his gaze burning into me. You know how I feel now. Can I have an answer? Chloe? I'd never realized how sweet my name sounded until now. Since being reborn, I'd focused on making my tormentors pay. Vivia expelled, Andrew in a wheelchair. He still deluded himself into thinking I'd return. But Ethan was an unexpected exception. I'd thought no one loved me in my past life, trapped in lies as I was. But now I knew someone had silently protected me for years in ways I'd never noticed. Memories began to surface, someone carrying me downstairs when my wheelchair couldn't manage them. Someone handing me tissues when I cried outside over Andrew's absence. And then a black mask appearing beside me time and again. In my mind's eye, I now saw Ethan's face clearly. It had always been him. Before I knew it, tears streamed down my face, misinterpreting my tears as distress. Ethan panicked. I'm sorry. If you don't want to answer, I'll wait as long as it takes. Please don't cry. Watching him awkwardly wipe my tears, I laughed through my sobs. Teasingly, I asked, what if you wait forever and I never say yes? I'll keep waiting, he said gently, though I saw a flicker of sadness in his eyes. My heart ached, and I blurted out, I wish I'd met you first. Ethan looked confused. I smiled and stepped closer. Okay. I wrapped my arms around his waist, feeling him stiffen in surprise. You mean it? He stood motionless, voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to shatter the moment. I stood on tiptoe and kissed his chin. I said, I accept. I like you too. A tear fell onto my cheek. Looking up, I saw Ethan's eyes brimming with tears. His face flushed. Why is he crying now? I just said yes. The usually composed top student clung to my shoulders, his reddened eyes looking utterly miserable. His tears flowed freely, tugging at my heart. I glanced around, then threatened playfully, keep crying, and I'll kiss you. Truthfully, his weepy expression had already made me want to act. Now that we were a couple, one kiss couldn't hurt, right? Before I could think, my body acted on its own. I pressed my lips to his. Due to our height difference, I pulled away soon. But Ethan protested with a low sound. In the dim moonlight, he wrapped an arm around my waist and leaned down, tenderly brushing his lips against mine. When I didn't pull back, his kiss grew more passionate. By the time he released me, my lips were numb. Ethan avoided eye contact, his ears bright red. Cute, I thought, reaching out to touch his ear. We both froze. It was a subconscious gesture, and I wanted to die from embarrassment. Chloe, Cuddy Fussel wide sigh. You're over 50 in past life years. How can you lose your composure over a kiss? I scolded myself. Before I could spiral, Ethan took my hand. Chloe, having felt my sigh. It's late. Let me walk you home. By the time we reached my apartment complex, I'd finally regained my senses. Remembering how I'd let him lead me like a statue, I felt mortified. Chloe, who'd faced so much, was reduced to a mess by a single kiss. So embarrassing. Ethan saw my embarrassment and ruffled my hair. Good night, girlfriend. See you tomorrow. His deep, sexy voice sent a shiver through me. I covered my face in embarrassment. All right. Go already. See you tomorrow. Through the gaps between my fingers, I watched his retreating figure and finally breathed a sigh of relief. A dull pain radiated from my lips, and I couldn't help but reach up to touch them. They were indeed swollen. And I silently cursed under my breath. That bastard, couldn't he be gentler? Did you kiss him? The icy voice made my scalp tingle. I turned to see Andrew's ugly expression, and my earlier good mood vanished instantly. Could you make a sound when you're behind someone? Scaring people like this could kill. You're still as timid as ever, Andrew said, his gaze distant as if recalling something. I interrupted him without hesitation. So what? Now I have someone who's willing to protect me. I knew what he was thinking. In our past life, we'd gone to an amusement park together. Vivia had insisted on visiting the haunted house, and I'd been reluctant, but Andrew had said, "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." I believed him. By the time we left, I was pale and trembling. But what had Andrew done? He'd been too busy caring for his first love to even glance at me. Unlike some people, who talk out of both sides of their mouth. Andrew's eyes flickered with pain. Suddenly, he grabbed my sleeve and stood up from his wheelchair. Chloe, cut in so wide session. Look, my leg is healed. Will you come back to me? I thought he'd need at least a year to recover. But he was standing after just 3 months? God really did favor him. Chloe. Before I knew it, his face was inches from mine. His eyes filled with desire, making me sick. I stepped back and snapped. What do you think you're doing? My retreat seemed to sting Andrew. His eyes darkened, and he asked coldly, "Do you hate me so much? Can't I even touch you now?" His words instantly killed any lingering feelings. Take back your disgusting words. In this life, we're not husband and wife. What right do you have to question me? Andrew froze, his face turning uglier. So you can openly cheat on me with Ethan? He advanced, his expression savage. I glanced at the security booth, empty. Probably on patrol. My home was still a ways from the gate. If Andrew tried something, no one would save me. Just then, a car drove into the complex. It was Andrew's father. I rushed to block the car. Andrew's father rolled down the window. Confused, Chloe, heading fulfilled my upside. What's wrong? I stepped aside, letting him see Andrew behind me. His father snapped. Andrew. So you do remember to come home. Get in the car. Now. Under his father's stern gaze, Andrew had no choice but to comply. After he fastened his seatbelt, his father turned to me. Chloe. Want a ride? I glanced at Andrew in the back seat and shook my head. No. Thanks. Uncle. I feel like taking a walk. Only when they were gone did I breathe again. Andrew's eyes had been terrifying earlier. If his father hadn't arrived, he might have done something unforgivable. The next day, I dragged myself to an early elective class, dozing off until I collapsed onto my desk. Half asleep, I felt someone watching me. I opened my eyes to Ethan's handsome face, thankfully. Not a nightmare. My dark circles must have startled him. Because after class, he kept asking if something had happened. Men's sixth sense could be surprisingly accurate. Giving in to his persistence, I told him about the previous night, leaving out the reincarnation part. Of course, it was beyond science, and I didn't want to overwhelm him. Ethan's expression grew serious. Chloe, hadn't fulfilled my assertion. I'll walk you home every night. And tell me wherever you go these days. After listing every precaution, he still wasn't satisfied. With my consent, he installed location trackers on both our phones. Now we can find each other anywhere, he said with a smile. Don't worry, I'll only use it in emergencies. I trusted him. Besides, there was nothing to hide. I loved feeling cared for and protected. Got you. I knew there was something between you two. Mia suddenly leaned over from the front row, staring at our clasped hands. I closed my eyes, of all people. Why did she have to be in this elective? Spill. When did you two get together? Yesterday. I deadpanned. I knew it. I told Chloe to go for it. And here we are. Mia chirped. My heart sank. Sure enough. She turned to Ethan with a knowing look. Before I could stop her, she blurted out. If it weren't for me pushing Chloe to chase you, you'd still be single. Ethan raised an eyebrow at me. Oh? So Chloe was trying to hit on me the other day? Mortified, I buried my face in my hands. What? She didn't chase you? Mia looked confused. Ethan clarified. I confessed first. Chloe was the one who said yes. Mia, well. So that the mantis catches the cicada. But the oriole is behind. Me, is that even how the saying goes? Mia, you got into college as valedictorian. But your emotional intelligence must have gone into your IQ. I told you Ethan had a thing for you. And you said he saw you as a rival. That's the funniest thing I've heard. Me. All day, had Ethan stilled Mio. Mia's gossipy stares made me restless. Ethan. Meanwhile, spent the breaks feeding me snacks and drinks. He was meticulous, always anticipating my needs, nothing like Andrew, who'd assumed he knew best and treated my preferences like an afterthought, as if I were a doll without a mind of my own. I'd hated it, but thought love meant tolerating flaws. Now I knew real love meant embracing each other's habits and compromising. With Ethan, even if he was late, I didn't mind. He'd explain patiently. And even if the excuse was flimsy, I trusted him. With Andrew, he'd stumble home drunk without a word and call me controlling. My feelings for him had eroded day by day. Looking back, I hadn't been heartbroken when he put that gold medal around Vivia's neck in our past life. The anger had been about the betrayal. Ever since we started dating, Ethan had been unapologetically affectionate. One morning, he showed up with my favorite mice noodles. Mia finally snapped, "Can you tone it down?" She glared at her dry bun. First, you rub your good food in my face. And now you're feeding me couple goals? Let a girl live. Afon and I shared a smile. He pulled another noodle box from his bag and handed it to her. This is for you. Mia's jaw dropped. I winked at her, now complaining after eating my boyfriend's food. She nodded eagerly and scurried away with her breakfast. Just as I thought I could enjoy peace, Andrew showed up like a bad penny. Whenever Ethan was away, he'd hover around, faking concern. I'd wondered if the terrifying Andrew from that night had been a hallucination, but no. He was just bolder now. This time, he walked right up to us, ignoring Ethan's dagger-like glare, and placed a pair of figure skates in front of me. Chloe, Graceful Xianxia. These are the skates you always wanted. They're yours. In our past life, I'd seen them in a shop window and asked Andrew to buy them. He'd refused, saying they were a waste on a cripple. Later, I saw them on his female skating partner. I took the skates, opened the window, and tossed them into the lake right as Andrew's hopeful smile peeked. He froze. Wiping my hands in disgust, I told him, "Stop with this nonsense. My boyfriend gets jealous." Then I walked away, hand in hand with Ethan. Without looking back, on the campus path, Ethan kept his head down, silent. I tried to pull my hand away, but he held on tighter. After a few failed attempts, I laughed. "Are you mad?" He glanced at me wordlessly. "I'm sorry. I warned him off. And I threw his stupid gift away. You saw me, I didn't even touch him. Ethan pouted but stayed silent. But I caught the flicker of a smile in his eyes. An idea struck me. Feigning sadness, I said, I can't believe my boyfriend doesn't trust me. Maybe come talk to me when you've sorted this out. I dabbed at my corner of my eye. Panicked. Ethan hugged me instantly. No. I do trust you. It's just before he could finish. I stole a kiss. Looking up at him with a grin, I asked, still mad? Ethan nodded with a pitiful expression. His eyes as if tears would fall the next second. All right. Stop pretending. Don't I know you? I exposed his act directly, not giving him a chance to keep up the charade. Chloe is so sharp. Seeing through my act at a glance. Ethan looked at me ingratiatingly. My heart suddenly softened. All right. Don't be jealous of him anymore. He doesn't deserve it. Ethan nodded, the smile on his lips unable to be hidden. Chloe, are you hungry? Let me take you to eat. After a day of classes, my stomach was indeed empty. I thought for a moment and said, let's go to that home-style stir-free restaurant at Eastgate. I heard it's affordable and cheap. Ethan rarely objected to my requests. As expected, he agreed without hesitation. To my surprise, we ran into Vivia while eating. I was shocked by her drastic change. Gone was the bright, punny-tailed girl who had bossed me around in stylish clothes. Now she wore casual clothes, a dirty apron around her waist, and looked exhausted cleaning dishes. I hadn't seen her since her expulsion. Witnessing her current state, a sense of vengeful satisfaction rose in me. Still going in? Ethan had also seen Vivia and looked down to ask my opinion. Of course. We were here to eat. Vivia's presence wouldn't affect my appetite. I wrapped my arm around Ethan's and walked in. Sitting at an empty table, the madam boss immediately ordered Vivia to take our order. Kane, hurry. Bring the menu to this table. Okay. Her quick response made me think she had improved. But the moment she slapped the menu on me, I realized some people never change. Vivia glared at me. Did you come here on purpose to laugh at me? Are you satisfied with how I've fallen? I rolled my eyes and held back the agitated Ethan. This was a war between women. He shouldn't interfere. I slammed the menu on the table and stood up, meeting Vivia's gaze. Isn't this all your own doing? I never provoked you. You repeatedly manipulated and tried to frame me. Honestly, petting fulfilled my obsession. I don't care if you live well or not. And you still haven't learned your lesson? Now that you're expelled, do you want to lose this job too? You. Just as I thought Vivia might attack me, the madam boss rushed forward and grabbed her ear harshly. Vivia winced in pain, her fierce expression instantly turning to a grimace. Kane had out a low sigh. How many times do I have to call you? Do you want to get fired? The madam boss apologized to me with a smile. Enjoy your meal. Just call Kane if you need anything else. The drama was resolved as easily as that. In my past life, Vivia had never entered figure skating but had still graduated and found a good job. Now, without a diploma, what would her life become? But these were her own choices. Hey! Focus! Did you see Vivia when you went out to eat yesterday? Mia looked at me seriously. After her expulsion, everyone around here knows the dirty things she did. Given her pride, she shouldn't be working as a waitress. Right? My pen paused in my drawer. Who knows? Maybe she's given up on herself. A classmate with insider information whispered. I heard her family is forcing her to marry an old man in the village. So she's desperate for money. After Vivia left school, gossip about her never stopped. But most were rumors, exaggerated as they were passed from person to person. With the national team trials approaching, Ethan and I spend every day in training camp. Strangely, since I threw away the figure skates and robot, he hadn't harassed me for a long time. He practiced with his new partner daily. Though not yet at his past life level, he was making steady progress. I was confident he would soon make the national team. It seemed he had finally focused on his career. Days passed, and everyone improved rapidly. A few days before the trials, the coach organized a gathering to boost our morale. Though we were banned from drinking, it lasted late into the night. Ethan walked me home as usual and left. But soon after I entered, the doorbell rang. Assuming it was Ethan, I opened the door with a smile. Did you miss me already? My smile froze at the sight of the man who hadn't appeared in ages. What are you doing here? Come with me to a place, Andrew said in a low voice. I'm not going. It was late, and I still had a shadow from the last incident. Just come with me this once, and I'll never bother you again. Looking at the man before me, I felt his unusual calmness was off. But he stood there stubbornly, as if he'd wait all night if I refused. To avoid ruining my future mood, I decided to settle things once and for all. This is the last time, Andrew. I closed the door and followed him. Watching the man leading the way, an odd feeling crept over me. Andrew, who never wore black, was dressed entirely in black today, black shoes, hat, mask. A mask? Why was he wearing a mask at this hour? Before I could think, the man ahead suddenly stopped, pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, and turned with madness in his eyes. I stepped back slowly. Andrew, what do you want to say to me? What do you think? Noticing his erratic mood, I turned to run but was covered my mouth and nose by someone behind. As I lost consciousness, I heard Andrew say, "It's okay. We'll have another past life." When I woke, I found myself tied up in an unfamiliar place. Fear surged as I recalled what happened before passing out. I never expected Andrew to kidnap me. I observed my surroundings. Broken bricks and weeds everywhere. It looked like an abandoned brick factory. My hands and feet were tied to a chair, and tape covered my mouth. I struggled fiercely, and my phone fell out of my pocket. Stop struggling. You can't escape, Andrew said, entering from outside. He still wore last night's black clothes. His smile familiar yet strange. Looking at him, he seemed like a complete stranger. I wondered when he had become this way. Unable to speak. I could only make muffled sounds. He stood there like an outsider until I exhausted myself. Just when I thought he would ignore me, he stepped forward and tore off the tape on my mouth. Do you know what you're doing? Do you want to ruin your life? Vivia's expulsion was her own fault. Even if you like her, you don't have to go this far. I thought he was acting out of pity for Vivia's current situation, since she was his first love in his past life, and he had genuinely loved her for years. At my words, Andrew's expression turned icy. Shut up. I don't like her at all. The person I've always liked is you. Can't you see that? But in your past life, you loved her so much your phone was full of her photos. Because I didn't know the truth, she lied to me, making us miss each other for years. If you know it's not my fault, why are you doing this to me? I glared at him angrily. Wasn't it enough that this man had ruined my entire past life? Now he wouldn't let me go. Andrew stroked my face and smiled obsessively. I gave you a chance. I wanted to start over, but you wouldn't even look at me. Every time I see you smile at Ethan, it's like someone stabbing my heart. Do you understand? I sneered. Andrew, you're ridiculous. After everything you did to me, how could you think I'd take you back? How delusional do you think I am? Just because I rejected you, you're unwilling and want to destroy me. Don't you? Andrew froze for a moment, then flung his hat to the ground. All I want is to be with you. Is that so hard? He leaned in and grabbed my chin, preventing me from moving. Just then, why down a low sigh. My phone on the ground rang. The screen showed boyfriend. I closed my eyes in despair. Damn. This would definitely provoke Andrew. As expected, his eyes turned blood red at the word. I dared not speak to anger him further. The ringtone lasted about 3 minutes before stopping, only to ring again shortly after. This time, Andrew answered quickly. Chloe, hadn't fulfilled my sigh. Where are you? The competition is about to start. Why haven't you arrived? Ethan's voice was anxious, with a hint of panting. She's not coming, Andrew said before hanging up. This place was so desolate. Surely no one was nearby. Remembering the phone's location feature, I gradually calmed down. Let's talk calmly. Okay? Andrew was beyond reasoning, muttering to himself. Let's die together. Maybe we can be reborn again. He approached with a knife. So that was his plan. I sneered. Even if we're reborn, what happened between us won't change. Why bother? Is it worth ruining your life for an unrealistic fantasy? I said much more. But Andrew was determined to die with me. Looking at the sharp blade, it would be a lie to say I wasn't afraid. I closed my eyes, praying silently for someone to save me. In truth, I had little hope. At the moment my life was threatened. All I could picture was Ethan's heartbroken face. Stop! A panicked shout suddenly rang out. Andrew's hand froze. I opened my eyes to see Ethan in his teen uniform, sweating profusely. Ethan! I exclaimed. How had he arrived so quickly? Were we just on the phone? Though confused, I couldn't deny. The moment I saw him, the tension in my heart finally eased. You got here fast. Andrew retracted the knife, eyeing Ethan thoughtfully. How did you know I was here? Ethan smiled faintly and looked at me. Because Chloe and I are on the same wavelength. Hearing Ethan's voice, I couldn't help but shoot him a glare. How could he be in the mood to joke at a time like this? Andrew's expression darkened and further the moment Ethan interacted with me. The air around us seemed to freeze, leaving only the heavy sounds of our 3 breaths intertwining. Andrew, let Chloe go, Ethan said firmly. His tone calm and unlike his usual warmth. He took slow, deliberate steps forward, his gaze unwavering. Andrew sneered, a mocking smirk on his lips. Who do you think you are? Giving me orders? Give Chloe back to me. It's not too late to stop now. Give her back? Ridiculous. She's always been mine. Did you know we were husband and wife in a past life? She crippled her legs for me. Who do you think you are? I watched Ethan's reaction quietly. Most people would struggle with such a fantastical story. But he remained calm. I mostly guessed there was a secret between you two that I didn't know. But I never expected this. Andrew had thought his words would make Ethan back down. But instead, Ethan scoffed at him. Since you know you made Chloe suffer so much, how do you have the nerve to keep showing up in front of her? Andrew's face paled instantly. Taking advantage of the moment, Ethan inched closer to me. I could feel the tension radiating from his body. His eyes met mine with unwavering resolve, as if he could dispel all the fear in my heart. But fate had other plans, and Andrew quickly noticed Ethan's intention and stepped forward to block him, letting out a cold snort. Think you can take her? Let's see if you're up to it. I could only watch in agony as the two fought fiercely in front of me. The rope around my wrists seemed to tighten and the more I struggled. Stop. Please don't fight anymore. I shouted, remembering the day's competition. Ethan! Be careful. My heart skipped a beat as Andrew lunged at Ethan with a knife, his movements vicious. Just then, the rapid sound of footsteps approached from a distance, shattering the tense standoff. Several uniformed police officers rushed into the abandoned and brick factory and quickly surrounded us. Andrew, you're under arrest for kidnapping. Come with us for questioning, the lead officer said sternly, signaling his colleagues to step forward. Andrew's eyes flickered with panic as he was subdued, but he quickly regained his composure and didn't resist. As he was led away, he turned to me with a complicated smile. Chloe, is there really no going back for us? I didn't answer. Maybe he truly loved me in this life. But it no longer mattered. Hospital ward. The TV played videos of competitions between major universities. Ethan lay on the bed with his legs crossed, looking surprisingly relaxed. This was the scene I walked into carrying a thermal food container. Just when I thought we were doomed, Andrew had been subdued by the police. Though Ethan had only sustained minor bruises from the fight, the kidnapping incident had landed Andrew in prison, effectively ruining his life. I told you to rest properly. I chided, taking the remote from him and turning off the TV. I knew seeing the athletes on screen would upset him after missing the tryouts to save me. A fun seemed to read my mind. Lying in bed, he said earnestly, Chloe, I'll always choose you over anything else. I don't regret missing the tryouts. I set down the ox bone soup from the container. You once said you chose figure skating because of me. Does that mean you don't truly love it? I felt a twinge of guilt, realizing his every choice seemed tied to me while I'd done little for him. Ethan dapped my forehead with his chopsticks. What are you thinking? The coach fought for another chance for us. He showed me his phone. The coach had appealed to the school leaders about our ordeal. And given our excellent performance, they'd agreed to grant us a redo. That's amazing, I exclaimed, throwing my arms around his neck only to hear him yelp in pain. Oh. Oh. I quickly released him to check his bandages. Seeing no blood, I realized he'd faked it to get my sympathy. Seriously? You said you wouldn't lie to me. You're such a... I'm sorry. Time passed in a blur of playful bickering. When we returned to the training camp, teammates rushed to offer their condolences. Are you okay? I never thought Andrew could be so deranged. First Vivia dropped out. Now Andrew's in prison. Our training camp can't catch a break. Who knows what people will say about us now. Sis. Lucky you woke up in time. Or things would have been awful. Mia said, still visibly shaken. What she didn't know was that I had lived through that nightmare. No dreams. No hope. Just endless numbness. In the first days after returning, I'd felt like I was in a dream. No matter how real everything seemed, I'd feared sleeping at night, terrified I'd wake up as the wheelchair bound Chloe from my past life. Now, I realized many of those memories had faded. This life's experiences were gradually overriding the pain of the past, making it feel distant and blurry. I could barely tell if I'd truly lived 2 lives. Looking at the smiling faces around me, I suddenly understood the past didn't need to be dwelled on. Only the present was real. Under the autumn sun, with sycamore leaves falling around us, Ethan and I passed the coach's evaluation and joined the national team as we'd hoped. Through daily practice, our tacit understanding became unmatched. The Olympics arrived as scheduled, amidst everyone's expectations. We won the first gold medal in pairs figure skating. This time, I wasn't watching on TV, I was standing on the podium myself, more excited than ever. Andrew was released from prison 2 years early for good behavior and left the city. My future was finally completely disconnected from his. Life was long, and I had a bright road ahead.